Welcome, everybody, to Cobwebs Live, the live show on the Cobwebs channel. My name is Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me for this live stream today. And if you are here, let me know in the chat. I know we've got a few people that have already said hi in the chat, but please, if you're here, let me know so that we can say hi, so we can talk. And let me tell you what we're doing today. So it's going to be a very special live stream because I've got a guest. I've got a guest on this live stream that I'm very excited to talk to. I haven't had a guest on this channel other than my buddy Chris, who's my friend in real life, and he's also a content creator too. But this is my first time having somebody on the channel whose content I watch here on YouTube, and that we're finally going to get to talk. Now, that person is running just a little bit late, so they're going to be hopping in very soon. But for now, I'm just going to interact with the chat a little bit and talk a little bit about what we're doing. So let me go ahead and see who is in the house. We have got the Newly Deads, two of my favorite physical media content creators together. Sign us up. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for popping in. And yeah, let me just say, my guest is Celeste de la Cabra, a YouTuber who talks a lot about Vinegar Syndrome. And that's what we're going to talk about today, Vinegar Syndrome. And we're going to talk about the upcoming sale that's coming in about 2 to 3 weeks. And we're going to start recommending some movies for you so that you will know what to pick up once that comes around. We got Ben in the house. Greetings. Thank you so much for dropping by, Ben. And you dropped a hey and a hi. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. We got Barnabas Collins, the Barnabas Collins himself. Hello, Daniel. Hope all is going well with you. Everything is going well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We got Shane Murray. Hey, Daniel, love your horror picks. Love the channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so while we're waiting on my guest, we got Wander This World 97. Excellent interview with Mid-Level Media. Hey, thank you so much. That was kind of a dream come true, honestly. I got to talk to Ken over at Mid-Level Media. He had me on his channel as part of his Collectors of the World series, where we just talked about movies and physical media collecting and stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Ken. Mid-Level Media is one of my favorite channels here on YouTube. So getting to talk to him was really, really exciting. So this sale, it's coming up. Let me go ahead and share my screen because I want to show you a little bit of information about this sale. Here we go. Okay, so it's the halfway to Black Friday sale. This is about the pre-order. Now, the pre-order is over, so I wouldn't worry about that at this point. But this is just going to give us a little bit of information about the sale. When does it take place? The event will kick off Friday, March 15th, 12:01 a.m. So that's 11 o'clock for me. I'm in Central Time. But yeah, so March 15th, so it's a couple of weeks from this Friday, I believe. So I'm very hyped up for this. I love Vinegar Syndrome sales. Now, how it works is it's 50% off. So it's 50% off pretty much everything that is at least 6 months old, which pretty much means anything that came out calendar year 2023 and back, it's going to be 50% off. Now, it is not 50% off of the normal price that you're normally going to be paying on YouTube. On Vinegar Syndrome's website. It's going to be 50% off the MSRP. So it usually comes up to, most normal releases are going to cost you about $20, $21. And then non-slip covered editions, probably around $17, maybe even $15 if they're old enough. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. And they've got some stuff that they are releasing with the sale, including a VSU, which they've already announced that is Navy SEALs. Cinematography release for Vinegar Syndrome titles. And then there's going to be 2 secret surprise Vinegar Syndrome releases too. So yeah, very excited about that. Looks like we got some more stuff in the chat I'm going to go ahead and interact with. We got the Happy Optimist. I recognize you. I recognize you from Born to Be Rad's live streams. You hop into those a lot. So, hey, what's up, legend? It's very kind of you. I appreciate it. It's very optimistic of you about that. Thanks so much for checking out the channel, man. Checking out the live stream. We got a hey from CJ. How's it going, CJ? Thank you so much for dropping in. I really, really appreciate it. We got a question. What's your favorite Bollywood action movie? Oh, man, I am a fan of Bollywood. I don't know if you've seen my video where I talked about a lot of Bollywood horror movies, but yeah, my favorite Bollywood action movie from my limited experience, admittedly, is Pathaan, which came out in theaters last year. I saw it around January, February in theaters. It is to date the only Bollywood movie that I have seen in theaters, but I loved it. It's basically a mashup of a Mission Impossible, James Bond, just kind of spy movie with action that is incredibly over the top, crazy over the top, but so much fun. I just love that movie. Real name is Prince, Jawan. Oh, that's a movie, right? I haven't seen that one. I think that's a Bollywood movie. Well, how's it going, Prince? That's an awesome name. We got Wander This World saying, I'm partial to the VSAs from Vinegar Syndrome. Love me some low-budget martial arts flicks. Nice. Yeah, I don't have many of the VSAs. I've actually only got a couple. One of them I'm going to be recommending, but I do have a low-budget action movie on VSA. I would not call it a martial arts movie, but I'm just going to go ahead and grab it without knocking a bunch of stuff over. And it's Action USA. So I do have Action USA on VSA. This is horribly out of print, so I'm not recommending it to you. I can recommend the MVD release, actually, in the MVD Rewind collection. They did release this, so you can't pick it up that way. But this is such a fun action movie that was shot regionally. I believe it was in a small town in Texas. I want to say it's Texas. And the city government just basically let them have the run of the city and do whatever they wanted. So it's basically just like a bunch of crazy stunts around this small town. And but surprisingly enough, the characters, the story, not bad. Honestly, not bad for the kind of movie it is. I was impressed because I honestly wasn't expecting much from things like characters and story and such from a movie like this. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. So I'm so happy to have the VSA. What is your favorite VSA release? Let me know, and maybe we can I can ask Celeste about it whenever they pop in. Yes, he is the star of Pathaan. I always just call him Khan because of the Shah Rukh Khan. That's probably. I understand he's like a huge star in Bollywood, but he was out of movies for a while. And then I think Pathaan was his comeback. So I think it was a big deal that he was in that movie. But that was the first movie I saw him in, and I loved him in it. I thought he was so good. Oh, looks like Celeste is going to be coming on very soon. So the main event is coming up. Check out 3 Idiots. Yeah, I've heard about that one. I'm good friends with a guy named Mike Scott who hosts the Action for Everyone podcast, which is he's kind of taken off. His podcast is doing really well, and he's told me about that movie, and I've heard it's great, so I do want to check it out. Yes, Action USA, so much fun. Absolutely love that movie. There are at least one other Action VSA that I got that I ended up selling, which was LA Wars. Which wasn't like bad, and I didn't hate it. It was just a very low budget, like very bad acting 90s action movie. And it was like pleasant for one watch, but it was like out of print and going for fairly good money. And I was like, oh, I think I can let this go. Just put it up for auction and just watched people put the bids up and up. Oh, we got Shane Murray saying, I got the yearly subscription from Vinegar Syndrome in January. Watched the new Witch Story 4K tonight. It was so good. Excellent transfer. Yes, I'm so happy to hear about this because I'm really excited about Witch Story. I've not ordered it. I was thinking about throwing it into my sale order, even though I know it won't be on sale. But yeah, a friend of mine is also a Vinegar Syndrome subscriber. And I told him, I was like, if you tell me Witch Story is good, I'm probably going to get it. But you just told me it's good. So that is very exciting. I really want to see that movie. Congrats on being a subscriber. You know who else is a subscriber from Vinegar Syndrome? Celeste de la Cabra, who is my favorite source for Vinegar Syndrome recommendations. So I'm going to bring him on in right now.
Thank you.
Hello, Celeste.
Hi. How am I sounding?
Sound fantastic.
Great. That's good to hear. I appreciate that.
I
put way too much work into those videos, so I'm glad that they help people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, they absolutely do. First of all, it's so good to meet you because I've already started the live stream. Our first time interacting at all is now live.
Yeah.
So this is very exciting. But it's great to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I apologize for my tardiness and I apologize for what I'm about to do, but I think that my internet just cut out for a second, so I'm gonna go ahead and hardwire this to the Ethernet. I will be
Okay.
right back. Sorry
No
about that.
worries. We got a little preview. All right, I'm gonna remove them from the stage, as StreamYard calls it, real quick. We got Prince saying very positive. I will have fun on your channel. Let's do this. Absolutely. Are you a Vinegar Syndrome fan? Let me know. If anybody's a Vinegar Syndrome fan, let me know. Yeah, to speak about my history with Vinegar Syndrome, I mean, I've been aware of them for a long time, but I finally stopped resisting and put in my first order with them probably about 3 years ago, something like that. And since then it's been like a slow burn for me. Like I wasn't immediately hooked on them, but I did enjoy most of the movies I picked up. Some movies I picked up I ended up selling because I didn't really care for them. And the cool thing about Vinegar Syndrome is they hold their value. So if you don't like them, you could pretty easily get your money back. And that kind of makes them feel like less of a gamble. But it's been fairly recently that I've been kind of going all in on them, and I do consider them my favorite boutique label right now. And the guest for the stream is actually a big reason for that, because I've been listening to their reviews, and it's kind of been pointing me towards the kinds of things that I like. So there's a little bit less guesswork in the buying. Wander This World says, thus far, my favorite VSAs are Martial Law, Savage Dawn, Action USA, Tiger Claws Trilogy, Unmasking the Idol, Expect No Mercy, and Magic Crystal. Nice. A bunch of those I know were for sale for pretty cheap during subscriber week back in January. And now I'm kind of wishing I got some of them. Like I think Unmasking the Idol was for sale. Expect for No Mercy was for sale. I don't think the Tiger Claws trilogy was. Martial Law is actually one of the ones that I did own, and I ended up letting it go. Not because I hated it, but because I didn't super love them, and it was another one that ended up going for big money on eBay. So I just kind of put it up for auction and just kind of watched the price go on up. I think we got our special guest back. Hello.
Hey. Okay, I want to apologize yet again.
It's all good.
Fucking pharmacy. It was a whole thing, just a nightmare, and yeah, it just took way longer than I thought it would, or it should have. So anybody who's caught me on a stream before knows that I'm never on time, so I apologize for that. But we're here.
All good.
Finally got everything good to go.
So I really haven't had to kill
good.
time at all. The people have been chatting in the chat, so it's all been good.
Nice.
So the first thing we're going to do before we go into our Vinegar Syndrome picks is I just kind of want to let my audience know, for those of them that don't already know you, because I know I've got some people who do, like we had Newly Deads pop in here saying that we're both two of their favorite physical media content creators. But yeah, not everybody knows you. So I just want to ask, how'd you get into horror movies? What kind of drew you to this genre in the first place before you ended up getting into Vinegar Syndrome?
Sure. Yeah, I did want to really quickly also say that it's nice to meet you. I know that we've been chatting, over text and stuff, but it's always good to get that first face-to-face interaction and everything. So that's nice.
Definitely.
Your horror movies. So my parents are pretty conservative, religious type people. Clearly that worked out really well for me. And they were not. No, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies for a long time. And then my cousin, who was really into them, was just like, when I was I don't know, 14, 15 or something like that, he was just like, what do you mean you've never seen a horror movie before? Well, we got to change that, because he was a big fan. And I don't know, I guess that just was the thing that made it happen. And so I was actually really scared of them, because there was just something I'd never actually seen before, so I built it up in my mind.
Scared of the idea of them before you even watched any.
Yeah, because I had no point of reference or anything.
Sure.
So we watched The Strangers. Was the very first horror movie I ever saw.
Oh my gosh! Threw you into the deep end immediately.
So he was into really late 2000s, early 2010s stuff. Was around that time.
Okay.
To kind of give away my age a little bit. Just this kind of stuff that he had been into, because he was into more contemporary stuff. So we watched that. And I hated it because it didn't scare me even a little bit. I was like, that was really dumb. I'm not scared at all. What's that about? I've since rewatched The Strangers, and I like it more this time because I have seen, I don't know, 1,000 horror films since then. And so I had more of reasonable expectation for it.
It's funny. I've only seen The Strangers once, and I saw it as an adult, and it didn't affect me at all. I didn't feel scared by it at all either.
Yeah. I remember thinking it was really like, I was like, because the one thing I was expecting was to be scared by it, and it didn't deliver on that front. So I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of like its themes or how it works as a film or anything like that, you know? So I had found myself kind of disappointed, but also like, oh, well, this is easy. I can just, we're good. So the next one I watched or we watched was Grave Encounters, and that one scared the shit out of me. Like it was really effective, and I was like, okay, now we're talking, because not only was it really scary, but I also really liked it, and I was also like, okay, this is fun. This because I'd always been drawn to it aesthetically, as I'm sure you can understand,
Oh, I
um,
can.
and so I was like, this feels like it's for me, and I picked up on it pretty quick and started catching up pretty quick. I've not yet watched Grave Encounters. I need to do that to see if it holds up, because again, I just had no frame of reference for it.
I've never seen Grave Encounters.
It's a found footage film, I
Right?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And that was something that he was really into, and that's something that we watched a lot when I was first getting into this stuff. Like Paranormal Activity was another. We like went through that whole series. I don't know. Maybe it's because that's kind of what I started with and what was the first thing that scared me. But found footage generally is a genre that, one, I like, and two, I find to be scarier when it works. Like I think that medium and that genre and that kind of I don't know, that aesthetic, it kind of does make it feel a little bit more intimate. Like it's something that you shouldn't be seeing, but you are, or like you could picture yourself in that situation more easily or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When it's done artfully and it's not just like a cheap cost-cutting measure,
Sure. Yeah, I think we've all seen those. But yeah, found footage is a genre I don't often like immediately think of myself as a big fan of it. It's not something I put on a lot, but whenever I do, I'm usually really drawn into it. And somebody left a comment on the channel recently and said like, hey, would you ever do like a found footage list video? And I thought like that would be really fun, because that'd be fun to like research and fill in my blind spots and such. I think what I like even more than found footage, although you can probably classify it as a part of found footage, is like the mockumentary style. Like Lake Mungo. You've seen Lake Mungo?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to ask you, if you've seen
Yeah.
Lake Mungo, because that's kind of a bit of both. And until I saw Skinamarink, that was like, to me, the scariest film I'd ever seen in my life. And I was like, it actually gave me like a physical reaction at a certain point that people who've seen the film can probably guess which part. But yeah, that's something else. I love that film. That Second Sight limited edition was at the top of my like out of print want list for the longest time. And I finally got a copy, but yeah.
Oh, nice. I've heard that goes for like an ungodly amount of money right now.
It was more than I'm willing to pay for it. I don't know. Like I had been in eBay auctions that got up to like the $80 mark and the $100 mark, and I was like, no, I'll hold out. And a friend of mine just said he wasn't planning on hanging on to it and sold it to me about what he paid for it. So I was pretty happy about that.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the scariest things to me in a movie is if characters are like looking back at pictures or videos of something you've already seen and then like spot something in the background you didn't see the first time. Lake Mungo's full of that. Ghost Watch is full of that, which is also one of my favorites. I even love like at the end of Insidious when they're looking back at the pictures from his childhood.
I thought about that one too.
The old lady in the background.
That was another early one for me that really scared me, and that scene in particular actually like kept getting me after the fact. Like I would think about it and it would freak me out.
Yeah, me too. Like the Darth Maul demon, I don't care, but the old lady in the black veil, she was scary.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say hi to Eli Cortez. What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for dropping by. Okay, so we got a little bit of a history about your horror film fandom, but what made you start a YouTube channel? And can you tell us a little bit about that channel?
Sure. So I like to say that my channel is for people who are interested in in-depth discussions on cult and art house films, which are the kind of two buckets, I guess, of cinema that I'm most interested in. I'll watch anything once, and I like things from just about every pocket of the history of cinema, but those are the two realms, I guess, that I find the most interesting films and like speak to me on an aesthetic and kind of thematic level most consistently. I also love classic Hollywood and stuff like that, but I don't typically make videos about that stuff. Towards the start of the pandemic, which I feel like is such a cliched answer at this point.
It really is. That's around when
So
I
like
started scrolling too.
yeah, I'm really into music, and so for the longest time, my thing was going to shows like 3 times a week or something like that. Here in Richmond, we get a decent amount of good stuff, um, and I was just seeing everything because I'd grown up in a small town where like I didn't see anything. So like the first time I ever saw like live music of a band I actually wanted to see was like when I was 16, and then I didn't go again until I was 18, and I had like moved on my own, and I started going to shows like all the time. But when the pandemic hit, you couldn't do that anymore. So whenever I feel funny telling this story every time, but it's like I like suddenly found myself with like all this time and money and didn't know what to do with it because it had all been dedicated to like this singular thing.
Sure.
And I quickly found something to occupy both of those things. Just like collecting movies and getting really into that sort of stuff. And I got really into Criterion first, and then I kind of got into Arrow and got more into like the cult side of stuff. The Criterion channel was like a really big avenue of discovery because like their bundles are just incredible, and like they have stuff that's like way outside of the purview of just like the physical Criterion collection. Like I saw all the Herschel Gordon Lewis movies there for the first time and really got into those. And so like my girlfriend and I, like, you know, for 2020, most of it, right, we're just like watching movies all the time because that's what we found to do. And we would have discussions about them afterwards, like the themes and stuff like that. And at a certain point I was like, I don't know, I think I'm pretty good at this, like coming up with like interpretations of different films and like kind of looking beneath the surface. Like once I kind of have the plot figured out, which is actually the hardest part for me to figure out, like then everything else kind of clicks into place. And I'm like, oh, I think this is what this represents, or like this is what is trying to be said here. And we would have really interesting discussions about it. And I had always wanted to do a YouTube channel for the longest time. I just wanted to talk about like politics and social issues because that's something I'm really into. That was kind of the idea for a while, but then I was like, I don't think I want to do that. Maybe I'll do that through the lens of like different films, because to me every film is political to some extent. So that usually comes up in my analyses, but it's not like necessarily the only lens of analysis or the only focus. And so at a certain point I was like, I think I could do this. And I kind of started with just like little collection updates just to kind of, you know, talk about random or just a sort of mishmash sort of assortment of films that I could just kind of briefly touch on. And I started, the first film that I did like an analysis on was X, Ty West film.
Oh, I love that movie.
I did too. I heard on your interview with Ken recently that you said you like it better than Pearl, and I agree with that. Not a ton of people think that, but I think X is the better one.
I think
not
like
by a ton.
Pearl
by
seems
a
like the
decent amount.
smart answer because like it's the
Yeah.
character study and such.
Mhm.
Not that I'm saying anybody says they like prefer Pearl because they're trying to sound smart. That's not what I mean, but it kind of seems that way. I really like Pearl too, but also I saw both of them in theaters with my wife and we loved X. We had so much fun, and she hated Pearl. So like we didn't like have the fun experience together, even though I really like Pearl because I really like both of them.
Yeah, I think X is just kind of sleazier. Kind of goes harder, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. And like,
maybe if I no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I like how, you know, slasher movies, they usually have like the sexuality elements, the titillating elements. And I like how that movie goes so meta with it, where the characters are literally making sleazy exploitation to provide the sleazy exploitation in the actual movie. It's interesting.
Yeah, I also felt like the themes in Pearl were kind of more straightforward, and X was doing kind of more interesting things with that. I think I maybe my opinion will change because I'm going to rewatch both of them before I see the third one. Yeah, I think I might do it in like, I think I'll watch I'll watch Pearl and then X to see how that kind of shifts my view of the films, to watch it in more chronological order.
I like that.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I started doing that just as an avenue to kind of try my hand at film analysis. And generally I'm just what I've been calling a certified yapper as of late. It's just always talking. Like I can't not talk about these things. I'm actually fairly quiet in person, like, but if you get me going about something I'm interested in, like I can go on forever, you know.
Yeah, well,
and this has kind of been my avenue to do that.
I have a case. You said like you're a yapper. I said that's what YouTube's for. You have a YouTube channel so you can
Yeah.
talk. I will occasionally get comments on my channels where it's like, this guy talks too much, and I'm just like, what are you doing on my channel if you don't want to hear me talk?
I agree.
Like, this is what I do here.
That's the entire point of like not just your channel but the platform.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Presumably you saw the runtime before you clicked on it. And my runtimes are starting to get a little bit intimidating, but like, you don't have to watch it.
You made a feature film recently, basically.
I did.
I watched all of it. I thought it was great.
Thank you. I put so much work into that, so I really appreciate when people sit through the whole thing.
Seriously. Yeah. For everybody to know, Celeste's recent video was on reviewing all of the releases from November, all the Vinegar Syndrome releases from November, and that included the Last Picture Show box set. And how many movies was in that box set?
10. And then there's the Prophecy box set, and then there's 16 films total that I reviewed in that video.
Yeah, very impressive. And like, I'm a pretty adventurous movie watcher, but even the Last Picture Show box set was even a little intimidating for me. And after I heard you review all of them, I was like, yeah, I don't think that box set's for me. But it was fascinating to listen to hear about those movies, like the Blue Ape movie, the children's film.
That one's fun.
That's on the same disc as a pornography film, I believe. That was a fascinating
none of them are quite there, but it's on the same disc as Violated, which is a really, really questionable, like sleazy sexploitation slasher, like rape and revenge type of thing. It's probably the most extreme film in the box, and it's like paired with the with the I guess children's film, although it's really out there. I don't know that it's like
it's so
kind
bizarre.
of, I don't know. The thing I've compared it to is The Adventures of Milo and Otis, where it's kind of like weird and out there, but also like there's a level of peril throughout that maybe isn't what you'd expect from a movie made for kids. That's the thing, the closest thing I could think of to come up with a comparison, because there's really nothing else quite like that. I didn't bring it for our recommendations today, but I do want to say that the Lost Picture Show, just because I've spent so long talking about it already, I kind of wanted to talk about something else. But that one is my favorite release of all of last year, and it absolutely would be pretty much at the top of my recommendations list, because it will be on sale this coming halfway to Black Friday sale.
It will, I believe everything that came out calendar year 2023 and back is going to be 50% off. Yeah, let's go ahead and address this. We got a comment that says, what sale is this video title referencing? Not the 420 sale. It is the halfway to Black Friday sale. We are a little early. It's kicking off May 15th, but I don't know about anybody else, but I'm already starting to make my list of what I'm planning to pick up. So we want to start getting some recommendations out there. It'll be in 3 weeks. I said 2 weeks earlier. I was a little off on my math. So exactly 3 weeks from today, it's going to kick off. And then it's going to go through the 18th, I believe.
Nice.
So I love those sales. We got a question here. Are either of you picking up the Houses of Doom box set from Cauldron? I'm so glad you asked, because I kind of referenced this. I really want it because I love Italian horror. I love Lucio Fulci. I believe it's 2 movies from Fulci and 2 movies from Umberto Lenzi, and I really like both of them. And I believe they're all TV movies that I've heard about these movies before, that like Fulci did make TV movies, but they're like pretty hardcore, and it's the kind of stuff you could never show on TV, at least in that time period here in the States. I really want it. Last time I looked, it's really expensive, and that's the kind of box set that like I would love it if it was $50. Then it would be an easy go. But isn't it like 80, 90, something like that?
Yeah, it's at the pre-order price right now, and I think it comes with some extra goodies and stuff to kind of incentivize pre-order, and I think it's like $90 or something like that. Which, like, is it? Are they 4K? I don't think they're 4K. But even if they're not, honestly, like the more I learn about the amount of time and resources and like work that goes into these sets, I'm kind of like, unless it's Scream Factory, I'm kind of like forgiving of just about any pricing at this point. I'm like, this is so much, and like, the economy's kind of rough, and it's just like what it is. But
that's true. But
on the other end of that, there is the reality that $90 is a big ask especially for like movies that probably haven't seen before, And me personally, I am unemployed at the moment, and so I'm not buying anything for the foreseeable future. So unfortunately, that's not happening for me. But yeah, it looks like a really cool set. So
it does, and I've always been curious about Fulci's career outside of the normal stuff everybody knows that's out. Like, I know he made a lot of comedies before he get into horror, and I've always been curious about that too. I don't know if anybody's ever going to release the Fulci comedy box set. But that would be very
somebody will
interesting.
get to it.
Severance
my
seems like
impression,
they would do it.
yeah, my impression is that he was just kind of a hired gun at like a studio director to just do whatever until he kind of found his niche and like started making really gross, scuzzy freak movies for, you know, people like us, and then he's just like, yeah, this is it right here. That's my understanding. That might be
you guys like eyeball trauma. Okay, we'll do that more. We got a few more people. Oh, it's one of my favorites. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I still believe it. I've said before I like Fulci better than Argento.
I do.
I'm not sure. Do you do? Okay.
Yeah. I think I still like I think that. Yeah, I think like my favorite Argento movie I probably like more than my favorite Fulci movie, but overall, like, I think Fulci's like, he's like more of like a, like, if I'm putting it in music terms, like Argento feels like kind of a more like avant-garde kind of guy, and then like Fulci's just kind of like a nasty death metal band, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure that.
He's just banging on the guitar. Let's see. We've got Wayne Butler says, I own all of the Cynthia Rothrock collection. Does that mean you own every Vinegar Syndrome with Cynthia Rothrock? That's impressive. Celeste, you probably do too at this point, being a subscriber.
I don't know how far. Oh, they do a lot of VSAs with her, and I don't generally pick up the VSAs.
Oh, so, that's right. That's not included in the subscription.
I almost grabbed one of her titles for one of my recommendations. I kind of just didn't want to overthink it and just kind of grab stuff off the shelf, but yeah, Undefeatable is a really, really good one.
I remember you talking about that, and I was kind of feeling sold. I haven't watched a lot with her, but I do kind of like her whenever I've seen her. She's just really great in the action scenes, which is talented. Like, it's such an obvious thing to say about her, but it's just so true.
Righting Wrongs is another good one. She's not like an incredible actress or anything, but like she does all her own stunts, and she's like actually like a certified fucking badass, like award winning, like tournament winning, like just excellent martial artist in her own right. And she's like a cool person too. Like, I love watching the interviews with her. She seems really like a chill, nice person. Undefeatable is one of those where it's like, it's awful, but it's also like amazing. It's kind of like, it's the perfect like mixture of both, where like, it is genuinely so entertaining, and it also just kind of rips, but the acting is just atrocious, and like the storyline makes little to no sense. It's also tonally all over the place, where it'll be like really, really goofy, and then it'll be like kind of disturbing. Like, you'll have like goofy shit going on, and then you'll have like a sexual assault scene, and then it'll be back to goofy stuff. Like, it can't pick a tone. It's just doing all these things at once, and it's like kind of singular in its ridiculousness.
Isn't that am I wrong, or is that a Godfrey Ho movie?
Yes. And so there's a second cut of the film, which is basically a different movie, because he would like recycle footage a lot. Yeah. So different markets had different, just very wildly different cuts, but he just kind of used it. It's like, oh, it's a new movie.
I don't think I've ever seen a Godfrey Ho movie, but I've heard a lot about him on like podcasts and stuff, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating to hear about him. We got Hugo Superstar. Hello from Portland, Oregon. I was born in Portland, Oregon, so that is very cool. Welcome.
I visited once, and it's like my favorite place I've ever been. It feels like a very me place, and I want to go back sometime.
I don't know if I have been like since around the time I was born, to be honest, but I did not long ago go to Eugene, Oregon, and it kind of felt like one of my favorite places. Like, it was just so beautiful. Weather was so perfect. I was told it was like the 1 week out of the year where it didn't rain, but when I was there, it felt fantastic. Let's see. I grabbed the 420 grinder and papers from Vinegar Syndrome on 420. Celeste, can you tell me what this is? I don't know what that means.
It's exactly what it says for the 420 sale that they did. Did you see any of that? Like, they had the $14.20 titles.
I must have missed that. Holy cow. No,
yeah, they did that on 420, and they also sold Vinegar Syndrome branded like weed grinders and rolling papers.
Okay. Wow, I can't believe I missed that. That's fascinating. Is it cool? I was scrambling for I was missing. No, we're a little early. We're just getting y'all prepared. It's 94 and only 2,500 copies. Not sure which one that. Oh, that's probably the Cauldron House of the Doom box set. Me myself, I've seen some messed up movies like Toys Are Not for Children and Women and Bloody Terror. Bloody Terror. Isn't that like a Indicator box set, I think?
I don't think I've heard of either of those.
Question for Celeste. What's the movie that's like the most fondest memory you have with back in your youth?
So like the most nostalgic kind of, maybe Princess
so.
Bride?
Oh,
Let's
that's
go
a
with
great
Princess
choice.
Bride. I love that movie a lot. But it's like one of the earliest films I can remember really loving.
Yeah, we had the clamshell VHS of that when I was a kid. And like I was briefly like, oh, it's a princess movie. It's for girls. And then watching it, I was like, oh no, this movie is awesome. It's fantastic.
I think that film is for everyone. Like everyone could like
Oh,
that.
yeah, absolutely. And even now, like now I do like the Disney princess movies, but you know, like Beauty and the Beast were my favorites. But when I was a little kid, thought they were for my sisters. You got to see A Cat in the Brain. You really get to see that Fulci loves being a sleazy director. I've actually not seen Cat in the Brain. That's one of my Fulci blind spots.
I have it and I have seen it. I don't know. It's a weird one. It's very meta. Like he plays himself in it. He is himself a like horror director that is like being chastised by the community for like corrupting the youth or something. And like there's sections throughout that are taken from his and other people's other movies. So it almost works as like a clip show at the same time. I think if you won't go into it knowing that, you might get more out of it, but I had no idea what it was. And I was watching it just like, what the hell is going on? This is weird. But yeah, there's some uncomfortable scenes in that. Like it is pretty sleazy. And it's kind of doing that in a way that is overboard to make a point and to be satirical of himself. It's an interesting film.
That's bizarre. I knew he was in it and I knew he played a director, but I did not know he actually literally played himself.
Maybe I'm misremembering and he's like has a pseudonym, but it's obviously supposed to be him. But I think I remember him literally playing Lucio Fulci.
I got to see this. I live in a efficiency apartment, so it's pretty small, so I don't have room to collect physical media so I want to digitally download all my movies. Yeah, do what you got to do. Space is an issue.
People downplay that sometimes, but I'm like always out of room and have to get really creative. And then people like to be snooty about how you store your collection and everything. And I've had to move to like sleeving some of my stuff just to literally fit it in my house. And I got some pushback for that. I don't know. Do whatever you got to do. Like, as long as you're like supporting artists and you're like being adventurous in your film watching and, you know, you're doing what works for you, like don't let people tell you that you're doing stuff wrong. That's my take.
Yeah, absolutely. I can feel the frustration with Ken at mid-level meetings, recent videos talking about how he needs a new shelf and he's just out of space. Yeah, I need a new shelf myself, actually. So we've got to that point. Thankfully, I've got room for another shelf, but one day I've always I'm so resistant to the idea of like sleeving my stuff or putting stuff in boxes or something. And I've always kind of said, like, when I get to that point, it's time to start getting rid of stuff. But it's going to be really hard to get rid of stuff because you know, you want access to this stuff. So
yeah, I kind of thought the same thing. And then I was like, when I really pared down and like made a stack of everything I wanted to get rid of, it was like 15 things. I was like, well, that's not going to work. So you know what? We got to come up with a solution here. I'll get more into it because I'm actually going to make a video updating my complete collection and I'll kind of go into my thought process there. Just haven't got around to it yet, but I think I'm going to do a separate video. Because I actually got the idea from Heath Stereo at Midnight. He did a video about sleeving his collection.
I remember that.
And people gave him so much shit for it. But when I saw the video, I was like, bro, you just solved my problem because I'm out of new shelf space. There's nowhere to put a new shelf. So I have to make the space I have work. And it was a lot of work and I had to get very creative with it. But I think we got it to a place where I have room to expand and there's more stuff that I can kind of convert into more space efficient sleeves and everything.
That probably took a lot of stress off, didn't it?
It did. I feel much better.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work, but I feel a lot better. And it like looks clean too. Like you'll all see when I do the video, but you know, I think it's a good solution. And I don't know, hopefully it'll help other people because it did take a lot of stress off of my mind because literally what I had to do, like you can see right here, my bookshelf here, I had stuff stacked in front of the books, like piling over. And it's just like, well, now I can't see my books. These are like in very precariously placed such that I have to like balance stuff to like get it out and everything. You know, they're not like they're supposed to be. And it's just so much better now. So yeah.
I completely understood it with Heath because like his collection intake is massive.
I don't It stresses me out.
I don't know how
about
he
it, to
deals
be
with it, because he
honest.
has, at this point, he has so many companies that send him their stuff for free. So
Mhm.
it seems like he gets like a truckload every week.
I don't know where he puts it. Like, I am kind of at the point where not only can I not afford to be buying much of anything right now, but the idea of trying to find spots for like even the nicer stuff that I couldn't sleeve, it stresses me out a little bit. Like, I think maybe we focus on watching the stuff I have a little bit. Easier said than done, but
Yeah.
maybe try to do a bit of a mindset shift there.
Yeah, full transparency, I feel like once a month or once every couple of weeks, I get this point where I'm like, why am I still buying this stuff? Like, I could really just stop now, and I would like have a nice collection, which I like to have, and I have so much stuff that I could watch for a long time, and I could just stop. I never do, but it crosses my mind kind of a lot.
There's always something to pull you back in, whatever the newest thing is, where you're like, well, that looks sick,
A lot of times for me, it's a sale. There's like all this stuff is like $15 or $10, and I'm like, well, it'll never be that cheap again. I have to get it now.
Yeah, it's been a process, I don't know. Lately, I've gotten myself to the point where I'm like, I'm kind of over slipcovers. I don't need slipcovers anymore. Like,
Even with
if I
Vinegar
don't,
Syndrome?
it's okay. Even with Vinegar Syndrome, it was a
Wow,
whole thing,
okay.
but we got there because they take up a lot of room.
I have one
They run out of
recommendation where the
room.
slipcover is sold out, and I decided I'm going to recommend it anyway. So
I think I have actually, maybe not. Maybe these are all available, but regardless, I'm recommending the movie. So, but like, I don't know. I think even the slim cases look nice on the shelf, and they take up so much less room. And like, if it's gonna be a whole thing, I don't need it. I don't know. Space is at such a premium right now that I'm kind of like, you hear me complain a lot about the side loaders, because if there's no booklet in it, it's just like, this is so much room that you just take into like throw on extra artwork. It's like,
I completely agree. I've complained about this many times, but like my least favorite packaging ever that Vinegar Syndrome has done is Flesh for Frankenstein. It's just 2 cuts. Well, not even 2 cuts. One's
It's
the 3D
huge.
version and one's the normal version. And they have their own cases, their own slipcovers, and a hard box. And I'm like, why? It could just
It's
be
cheap.
this, and they could fit everything in here.
I think that was an especially big get for them at the time, and they wanted to really go all out with it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Although
But
it's
honestly,
still not
like,
sold out, so maybe they overshot on it a little bit.
yeah, it was way overpriced. I think that's why it stuck around for so long. I waited and waited and waited, and finally last subscriber week they dropped it to $30, and I was like,
That's
now's
exactly
my
when I
time.
got it. I had been waiting for like over a year. I was just like, I couldn't do it at like $40 or above. I was like,
Yeah,
I like
40
it.
was the
I don't
sale
like it like
price.
that. And I had been waiting for, because I get good deals on Facebook and stuff, like collectors selling to each other.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for somebody to have theirs up. It just never happened. And so for subscriber week, I was like, you know what? $30. I've never seen it that low. Biting the bullet. We're doing it.
Everyone who watches Flesh for Frankenstein is like, I'm going to watch this over and over again. I just can't let this go. Have you watched it yet?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's a Criterion Collection film too, actually, which is interesting.
Really? Like Laserdisc?
No, DVD. It's an early one. It's in the
okay.
first 100 spines, I think. 90 something, maybe.
That makes sense. I've seen it pop up on the
yeah.
Criterion channel before.
It's an out-of-print DVD. So it has that prestige to it.
Interesting. All right, so Ben says Undefeatable is a great film. So you got some support there. Sounds like New York Ninja, probably.
It's better than New York Ninja. New York Ninja is fun, but it's not particularly good. Undefeatable, I think, is actually really good.
Yeah, it's New York Ninja doesn't look like my thing. Yes, Madam, I do really like. That's probably my favorite Cynthia Rothrock movie I've seen from a limited amount, but that was a good one with both her and Michelle Yeoh, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to get that. Here we go again. I just talked about buying anything. I'm like, I need to get that box set.
If it makes you feel better, I streamed that movie, so I don't actually have that box set. So from that box set,
It was on the Criterion channel for a second.
Yeah, and on the Criterion channel, I watched the first movie that was in that box set, which is called Line of Duty.
In the Line of Duty?
Yeah, which is so good.
Yeah.
Let's see, Ninja Terminator. I've heard of that one. That was like the title on the tip of my tongue when we talked about HBO.
This one of the ones, I have like a note on my phone at this point of like, this is the stuff you want to prioritize before it sells out, because at this point the things that I care about is not like fancy packaging, but like booklets. I really love booklets, and it
I do
makes me
too.
sad that they're so often relegated to the limited edition because they're so valuable, and like the essay writers put as much work into that as like the special features producers and stuff, so that bums me out. But it does work, and that now I prioritizing stuff with limited edition booklets. But Ninja Terminator has an extra film on it that is only on the limited edition, which is another thing that bothers me, but I also get it. Like, it's probably not that good, and it's not a good scan, and this is the best we could do, so we're going to offer it as a limited bonus thing. But me being me, I'm like, well, if it's an extra film, I've got to see it regardless of how good it is, so it's on the list now.
Is it like a recut Ninja Terminator with a different title, I'm guessing?
Now that you say that, I should probably double check that, but I don't think so. I think when I looked into it, it's like a different thing, and it's just like the elements were terrible and there's not much they can do with it, so it's like, here you go, as it is.
Right on. Yeah, I love booklets too, because a lot of times after I'm done watching the movie, I might not want to keep like watching the screen, and I might want to move up, like give my eyes a break, and going to a booklet is a great solution for that. Undefeatable is a goated Vinegar Syndrome release. Well, you guys are kind of selling me. I'm sure that one's going to be on sale, so now I have to add it to my list.
The thing with it also is that there are so many supplements on it that it took me like days to go through everything for the review. It's just like I pulled up the list and there was like a page 2. There are a few releases that have almost broken me in this project that I'm doing, where I look at the features list and I'm like, I can't do it. I gotta quit. And then I do it anyway. That was one of them, where it's like, it's so much. It took me days to get through all the supplements on that, but they're all good too. So it's a really great release.
That's something that I've got to highlight for the audience, is that you actually watch all the special features before you do the review. And this is why your Vinegar Syndrome content is so incredible, because like almost all of the other Vinegar Syndrome content on YouTube, and I'm not criticizing anybody because I do too, it's mostly haul videos. It's mostly like, I picked this up, I've never seen it, and like I love a good haul video. I do that too. But like, you watch it, you watch the special features, you give like this actual meaningful, interesting review of it.
Thank you.
I can't think of anyone else who does it at that level. I think you're the only one.
At least for Vinegar Syndrome, and not to toot my own horn or anything, but I think you're right. I don't think there's anybody else that goes to this level for it. The only other person I can think who is crazy enough to do this is Daisuke Beppu for the Criterion stuff.
That was on the tip of my tongue,
But I guess I just decided to do that, but for like the sleazy shit instead. Yeah, I gotta say, there are times where I'm like, what am I doing? Nobody else does this. You don't have to do this. Do it anyway.
I have a question though, and I hope it doesn't come across as unsolicited advice, but do you ever think about doing like each release as an individual video, so it's like less work per video?
I'm actually doing that going forward, because I put so much work into this video, and I at least wanted to get the box set as its own video, because I know there are people who want to learn more about that set, just because like nobody knows much about it at this point, because like they're all lost, So I was like, I know people will want to see that as standalone, and I did that to test the waters, and not a single person complained about like recycling content or anything, and it's doing really well on its own too. So I'm good. Okay, I should have just been doing this, and so I'm gonna do the rest of the November stuff, and then going forward, I haven't quite decided how I want to do it yet, but I think I'm going to upload the individual reviews first and have the full video available for Patreon subscribers at the very beginning, and then at the end I'll upload the big video for everybody. But if you want to see the whole thing first, that's what I'm thinking tentatively. We'll see if I end up revising that. But yeah, I mean, even if not a ton of people watch the individual reviews, they add up. And that's something that I hadn't really considered, because on its own, that video has like 660 views or something like that right now. And the other one has about 600. So it hasn't done quite as well, but combined, that's 1,200 views that I have on that video, which would be very successful for any of my other ones. And it's just going to keep adding as I keep uploading them. So it's a simple thing that I hadn't considered, how the views will stack, even if one in particular doesn't do as well. And overall, that's the kind of stuff that's like really good for like your analytics, and like YouTube likes to see constant output. So if I can keep getting all those things with the same amount of work, like it's silly not to do that. And I probably should have been doing this a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that'll work out well. I think it'll work out well for you, because oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just want to say I appreciate you offering that suggestion, because it took me a while to like be okay with doing that. So it's nice that other people are like, hey, you should probably do that.
Sure. Because it kind of made sense to me, because I was thinking, watching your big thing, that like there's probably more people that are interested in Existence than there are people who are interested in like a month of Vinegar Syndrome's releases. Because like weirdos like me and like you are interested in that. But, there's probably more people that are just interested in this David Cronenberg movie. So I was thinking, I wonder if that might be a hack. Yeah, well, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm also selfishly excited for that, because that just probably means more Celeste videos I get to watch.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah.
We got DJ Depression. I like that. Who says Devil's Honey is underrated Fulci. One word saxophone. Yeah, I think that's accessible. Yes, fun movie. Insane, crazy movie.
I've not seen it, but I'm excited for the 4K coming out.
Oh, that's
right. I might rent
right.
that one first, but yeah.
Yeah, they're releasing that on 4K and Kathy's Curse on 4K, which I have down there too. Have you seen Kathy's Curse?
Mm-mm.
It's like, I would never say it is good, but it is fascinating for how insane it is. It's like an Exorcist, Omen ripoff all in one.
They're doing the LED eyes slipcover for it, which is such a goofy gimmick, but I'm kind of like, that's fun though. I kind of want it.
There are a lot of YouTubers who have a great time unboxing that, so I think that was smart.
It was smart.
A lot of advertising out of that. What's the holdup on Steve? I promise we'll get to our Vinegar Syndrome recommendations. What's the holdup on Stephen King's Night Flyer? We need this on Blu-ray. Yeah, I love Night Flyer. I just recently saw it for the first time for my 90s vampires video, and I loved it. Have you seen Night Flyer, Celeste?
I've never even heard of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it hasn't been released on home video. I don't even know if there is a DVD. There probably was a long time ago, but it might have been like an HBO movie or something like that. But yeah, it's a good vampire movie.
Fun. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Do you know off the top of your head if that's a novel or short story that they're adapting?
I think it's a short story.
Okay, because I was going to say, even if you're just talking about novels, you could pull out a Stephen King title and I wouldn't know if you were lying or making it up. There's so many. But then when you add short stories, it's like, I don't know how anybody could know off the top of their head if they hadn't like read it or something. So I was like, I was curious there,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, confession, horror is my greatest phobia, but I'm very open-minded to the genre, so I need help. What's your pick for a horror starter pack? If you like, I would say if you like old movies and you like black and white movies, I mean, I would say the Universal Monsters, because that was my starter pack when I was a kid, and that's what I really, really loved and what got me into the genre. But if you don't and you want something newer, I mean, like the 80s classics, like Beetlejuice and The Lost Boys, those just kind of good gateway movies that are just like entertaining Hollywood movies that pretty much would be a good time for anybody, even if you don't like horror, but they might kind of get you into the aesthetics of vampires and ghosts and practical effect monsters and stuff like that. What would you say, Celeste?
With questions like this, my instinct is to be a little bit annoying about it and be like, well, it depends. It depends on what you like already. Exactly. That could kind of give me a better idea as to where to start you off. Like if you're into action movies, like maybe Blade or something like that would be a fun one, or like Lost Boys would be another good one. If you're into like art movies, I could give you a lot of like really good art house horror films. But if I'm just trying to do like a generic, and I think your answer is really good, if you're into like classic films, yeah, those are places to start. Maybe for me, if I try to do a catch-all, one-size-fits-all kind of, this is a great horror film to start with, I want to say The Shining, because it's not only like one of the best films ever made, but it's like genuinely quite scary, and like I think could give you a good idea as to whether or not the aesthetics and the macabre and the kind of supernatural element are your kind of thing for a lot of the different pockets of horror films. But it's also, and I had to remind myself how popular this film is, because I also was like, it's a little too artsy, but it's actually like one of the most popular films ever made. So maybe it's not,
Yeah, and like if nothing else, you'll have a great time watching Jack Nicholson's manic performance. Like, 'cause I'm sure you've seen Jack Nicholson in movies, so it'll just be entertaining to see that kind of performance out of him. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The Shining, just an undeniably good movie, regardless if you're into the genre or not. Because there are certain movies that are just so good, you don't need to be interested in the genre to just get into it. All good. Recommendation for Celeste. I think you really like the films of Fernando Arabo. He was a collaborator of Jodorowsky, and his films operate in a similar way, surreal art house stuff.
Cool. I have the Jodorowsky box set that I have not touched yet, but I love all the words you're saying are very much my kind of thing. I've never heard of this person. If you have a film in particular you'd like to recommend, maybe I'd have heard of the specific film, but I'll look that name up after the stream for sure.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that either. What are y'all's collection count at? I'm at 4,300 4Ks. Wow, that's very impressive. Been collecting for close to 20 years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I actually just recently put out a complete collection video, and I put the count pretty close to the count in the thumbnail. It's over 1,200. It's somewhere around there.
Let me check. According to Blu-ray.com, 1,311 or 1,437. I'm not sure. Depends.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
Yeah.
And Eli is way, way beyond us. We're in his dust. We got Garrett from Born to Be Rad. Sup, homeboy? We're just watching your pickup videos now. Oh, thanks, dude. Garrett is awesome.
Real quick.
Oh, okay. Sorry, what?
You. How long have you been collecting?
Oh, okay. I have been... So pretty much my whole life, I've been collecting like VHS and DVD to some degree. Then when I left home, when I was around 19 years old, I started getting into DVDs. And then I had and I was, living on my own without any support from my parents. And I had like a big expense come up, and I sold off all my DVDs to cover it. So then I kind of just start over. And that's when I decided, okay, well, maybe if I'm starting over anyway, might go with Blu-ray. Because at first I was one of those people that said, I don't know the difference. I can't see the difference between a Blu-ray and a DVD, but I had a really crappy TV at the time. So I'm sure that had something to do with it. And I remember the first Blu-ray I got was Die Hard. And then I've pretty much been steadily collecting since then, but it went slow for a while because I was just a kid who didn't have very much money and a college student. So I got my first adult job post-college around 5 years ago. And that's when it's just kind of blown up.
Okay.
Prince is happy to see Garrett. Born to Be Rad. Got some more people saying hi to him.
Hello.
Allison's Birthday. Is that a movie? I'm not familiar with that.
It is. I think it's in the Severin All the Haunts BR set.
Oh, okay, cool. I had that back there, but
I pre-ordered that. I was so excited for it, and I fucking haven't touched it yet. Unbelievable.
I've watched about half of them, I'm proud to say. And I've liked almost all of them, but I've not seen Allison's Birthday.
I swear, people like me should be studied or something. You dropped $160. You were so excited about something, and it has sat on your shelf for 2 years now. What's wrong with you?
I always say I have my whole life to watch this stuff, Yeah. So I don't have to be in a rush. You and I are around the same age. We've got a lot of years ahead of us. We got time.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30.
Okay. I'm turning 27 in 2 days. So.
Oh, okay. You're a little younger than I thought. I'm usually always the youngest person in a group of physical media collectors. So this is cool to be.
Well, my analytics tell me that I am. So.
It's true. Night Flyer's Red. Yeah, there is a DVD. Okay, right on. I actually watched the Night Flyer on YouTube because it's the only place you can watch it. You can't even stream it on any streaming services. Blade was my childhood, but I stopped at that lane, took a break from horror because I had a never-ending trauma. Then I would say your next horror movie is Blade 2. Check that.
It's a fun one.
I like it.
Guillermo, my main man.
Race with the Devil is good. Absolutely agree. We got Ken, Mid-Level Media. You've been coming up quite a bit, so it's good to see you're here and we're not talking behind your back. And we got a lot of people saying hi to Ken. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the Vinegar Syndrome recommendations. We're about an hour into this thing, so I think it's about time. Is it the polite thing for me to go first or for you to go first with your first recommendation? What would you prefer?
Either way works for me.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first. I'll give you a little bit of time to decide which one you want to go first. Which release you want to do. I figure we'll just bounce back and forth. My first recommendation is Flesh and Fantasy. So this is a VSL release, which is the Vinegar Syndrome Labs line. And this was one of the first in that line. And I was pretty excited when they announced it because they basically said they were using it to experiment with different kinds of movies. And when they announced this, I was like, oh, if they're going to start getting into like 1940s horror, like that's very exciting to me because I really love that kind of stuff. So I ordered it like day one because I wanted to support it and I was curious about it. And I felt like the stakes were very high. I was really hoping to like it. And I loved it. I thought it was really great. It's basically a horror anthology from, I believe, 1943. And there's the original poster art there. And it lists the insane cast list. So this movie has got Charles Boyer, Barbara Stanwyck, Edward G. Robinson, Betty Field, Robert Cummings, Thomas Mitchell. Basically, if you're a classic film fan, it's going to have tons of people you recognize. But it's basically 3 short stories. They kind of blend between horror and just like fantasy and fairy tale. And they're really, really good. They're really entertaining. It's not amazing for special features. It does have a commentary track. And then it's got this really long featurette about the director, who is a French film director. Even though this is a Hollywood movie, it was a French director who did it. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, that's my first recommendation, Flesh and Fantasy. If you do like 1940s horror, I thought this was a great one. The 1940s horror anthology that tends to get all the attention is Dead of Night, but I actually like this one better. So that's my hot take.
All right. That one I also ordered the day it went live because I similarly wanted to support this new venture of like diving into older films and stuff like that. And like it seems like they have been true to their word in that Labs really is just like trying new things and seeing what sells and like not feeling like they have to stick to a brand and they can kind of do whatever they want. Because there's all sorts of stuff on that line. But that one I was like, I read the description, I saw the people in it, and then I saw that it was shot by the same cinematographer who did Night of the Hunter, my 3rd favorite film ever made. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to buy that. And I did. I haven't watched it yet, but I
got your whole life. Well, I highly recommend it. It's a good time. I bet your subscribers wouldn't even be mad if you did like a little bonus review of it.
I don't think so either.
I know it can help with watching a movie if it's going to become content. I completely understand that. All right, what's your first recommendation?
Let's start off with this set. This was my 2nd favorite Vinegar Syndrome release of last year. And it will be on sale. I think it's already been on sale once because this was a January title, but it's the Mexican Gothic set, the films of Carlos Enrico Taboada. First of all, look at that art. Come on, man.
It's awesome.
That black cat going on. It's so good. Got this. Oh, it's just when I watched this, I was like, this is why I collect movies. Like, this is why I support boutique labels. Like, this is everything that I love and believe in like one set. Like finding these kind of underseen, incredible genre films from other countries, like non-English speaking countries, non-white countries. Like, I think that stuff is so important. And it helps that the movies fucking rule too. Like, they're all so good. The first one is Poison for the Fairies. It's like a kind of satanic witch film about like 2 little girls who kind of like, it's a coming of age story. It's a kind of like anti-Catholic, like religious trauma kind of crazy. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's fucking wild and like it goes in directions I wasn't expecting. And so I think it's best gone into blind. The second one is called Blacker Than the Night. And it's about a black cat, which is like my favorite thing in the world. So that one was tailor-made for me too. And it's just like a really fun kind of like haunted house movie with some interesting themes as well. And the third one is called, let me make sure I got the name of the film right. I think it's Rapiña. That one is kind of a trick because it's not a horror film at all. But it's in here. Rapiña. Yep. It's just a drama, like a kind of like leftist, like socialist drama film, about like these guys that find a crashed plane filled with gold and they decide to take it and like escape poverty that way. And it's just like really, it's so good. It's not gothic, it's not a horror. They kind of just like, put that in there, it'll be fine. But I'm glad they did because it's such a great film. I don't think they could have sold it otherwise. But there's not as many supplements as I would have liked on it. It's my only complaint. My other only complaint is that it doesn't say volume 1 on it because I really wanted a volume 2. But man, I love it so much. I see you have it. Have you checked it out yet?
Yeah, I've watched 2 of the 3. So I've watched Poison for the Fairies and Darker Than Night. So I haven't watched Rapina yet. Yeah, I was super excited to get this because I recently discovered I really like Mexican horror because I watched that Indicator Mexican box set, which I loved.
Yeah.
This one's I haven't fallen in love with this one yet. It's been a little disappointing for me because Poison for the Fairies I had really high expectations for because I love witch movies and such. And like that's such a cool title, Poison for the Fairies.
Yes.
And I kind of felt like most of the movie is watching a couple of little kids play. And like, you know, I mean, there's a little drama there because, you know, one of them is like the rich privileged girl, and then one of them is the underprivileged girl, and the underprivileged girl is kind of like being mean and making up stories about being a witch to kind of like gain power in the relationship. And I thought that was interesting. But it did feel like most of the time I was just watching a couple of little kids run around. But it did go real dark at the end, which I did appreciate. And then Blacker Than Night, I keep wanting to say Blacker Than Night, Darker Than Night. I liked a little bit more, but it was just, you know, kind of like a straightforward haunted house. There's a couple of murders kind of thing. So I didn't like find it remarkable or super interesting, but it was just kind of the aesthetic that I usually like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that the third one is going to sell you because it's not a horror film at all. But as long as you know that going in, maybe you'll enjoy it as like it, because you also like just like older movies in general and like a lot of Kino stuff, right? I think you'll like that one. Yeah. You know, I guess I'm a little surprised that it wasn't like that you weren't as hot on it, but you know, not everything is as much for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but it is like just a beautiful release, and it is the case where it has the side loading box, and it does have a booklet.
The booklet's really
cool
good
design there. I think that's from Poison of the Fairies right there.
Yeah.
So it's a really
great
really
writing
cool
in it.
release. Yeah, I haven't read the booklet yet, so I got to get on that. Okay, so my next recommendation is Moon of the Wolf, which is this was kind of cool story of how I got this. So I did a video on like my favorite werewolf movies, and this was one that a lot of people in the comments, you know, were recommending to me, but I never really looked into like how I could watch it, how to get a hold of it. But then I was at a horror marathon at a theater in Chicago last October, and Vinegar Syndrome was there, and they had a table.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it was cool. And this was there. It was on the table, and I recognized it. I was like, oh, this is that movie that everybody was telling me about. So I bought it there. So it's kind of cool to get to buy a Vinegar Syndrome release like from them in person, not just ordering on the website. But it's a VSA release, so it's one of my 2 VSA releases that I have. And basically, it's a 1970s TV movie. It's from 1972. And it's just like this cozy little small town murder mystery. But the murderer is a werewolf, so you're just trying to figure out who the werewolf is. But you follow this like small town sheriff, and you're just kind of this country boy, and he has this romance with like a local rich girl who just came back into town. I think either she got a divorce or she's just back from traveling the world. I don't remember. So that part's kind of sweet. And it was filmed on location, and I think in Louisiana, and it just feels very authentic of like this small rural town. Yeah. And the werewolf stuff is actually pretty good. Like, it's not the greatest looking werewolf I've ever seen, but it's not bad. It's not like, you know, Amicus always does, where they just like film quick shots of a dog. You know, like it is a guy in a werewolf costume. So I did appreciate that. Have you seen this one?
Yes, I have. I don't have it. I've kind of been waiting for it to go on a sale because I see it's not selling very well. So I'm kind of cynically like, come on, warehouse deal, let's go. But that one, I watched it on Tubi when it was announced to see if I wanted to buy it, and the quality was just awful, but I still liked it. Like you said cozy. I think that's the perfect word for it. Like, it's not particularly exceptional in really any way, except that, like, I don't know, it's just kind of a vibe. It's like an easy watch, and like it's nice. I liked it. And then I don't really do a ton of rewatching, especially not this close back to back, but when I finally got into like Plex, I saw that one of my friends had it uploaded, and I believe it was just like a rip from the Vinegar Syndrome disc. And I watched that, and it was nice to see it in good quality. But I just watched it again. I was like, this is an easy watch. It's very cozy. I imagine when I eventually buy it, I'll end up watching it a third time, you know? It's pretty light on the werewolf, but you know what? It doesn't really need to be more than it is. And like, I think it has some interesting themes in it as well. Typically as it relates to a lot of werewolf films, where you're kind of dealing with this like almost like the themes that are kind of present in The Thing, where you don't really know who is the monster, so to speak, and like there's this level of distrust and like mob mentality that takes over when everybody is an enemy in a sort of way, you know. If you want to think about it like that, it generally is just like, it's nice to put on. I like it.
Yeah, cool. I'm so glad to know you're a fan. I didn't know that. Yeah, it's a fun little TV movie. I really discovered I really like 70s horror TV movies. They're generally just like a really pleasant vibe. We got a follow up in the chat here. Arabelle's best two films with the deepest historical and metaphorical significance in their content are Viva la Muerte and I Will Walk Like a Crazy Horse. I haven't heard of those.
And we'll have to pull those up. Yeah, I've never heard of them.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you, Brendan. Let's see. Oh, here's an interesting question. I would love to start a collection channel like y'all, but I wouldn't know how to start. Do you have any comments on that, Celeste? That's a good question.
If you have a phone, you have a camera right here, you have a microphone right here, you have YouTube right on your phone, you can upload it that way. It doesn't have to be perfect. My biggest piece of advice for people with this sort of thing is the hardest part is just starting. So just start, you know, like if it's bad, you can delete it later, like as you get better. You know, I would put some, if you actually want to be like successful, I think it does take a lot more like work and planning. But if your only goal is to have fun with it and to express yourself and to maybe find some like-minded people, it's as easy as turning on the camera and talking, you know. Editing is not as hard as I think people make it out to be. Like you can learn how to at least get basic editing down pretty quickly. And like iMovie is free, you know. So yeah, I would say just start. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish, like when you just decide to do it.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, for editing, like, I mean, you can do more with editing if you want to, and I usually do, but like really the only thing you need to know how to do is cut stuff out. So like if you burped or if you like drop usually when I drop Blu-rays, I keep it in, but that's totally up to you. It's just cutting stuff out is really all that's really important. And my first two videos on the channel are haul videos. They're very easy because like you don't have to put a lot of thought, planning, research, none of that.
Yeah.
People like haul videos.
Yes.
If you only ever do haul videos, your channel probably won't be that successful because you won't stand out, but it's a really good way to start. So I would just say like the next time
that's the best way to start.
If you have like a sale order, like you ordered from the Kino Lorber recent March Madness sale or something like that, and you got in a bunch of Blu-rays in the mail, just film yourself going through them. It's a really good way to start. And another piece of advice I would say is the people in your personal life probably will not care. I mean, they definitely won't care. So I wouldn't worry too much about like your friends or your coworkers thinking it's dumb. It seems like everybody is a content creator now. Everybody has they've got a TikTok, they've got an Instagram. Everybody's doing something online these days.
My experience, because I was worried about that too, you know, and I was kind of like, I don't want to like be vulnerable on the internet and then nobody cares or like makes fun of me or something, you know. But it's like, one, you don't have to do that. You can just turn on and like talk about movies in a very like detached sort of way if you just want to share like stuff you're picking up and stuff like that. But also like, I don't know, in my experience, when people find out I do that, they think it's really cool and they're really interested and they want to check it out. Or they're just like, oh, neat, not really my thing, and then that's it. And then it's just like, you know, the people who want to support will support. Yeah, people don't, it's not that big of a thing, you know.
Yeah, people's time is precious, and if they're not interested in your channel, they just won't watch it, and that's totally fine.
Yeah,
totally fine. Is it your birthday?
Well, I said it was in 2 days. So
okay, cool. That Severn Folk horror set was pretty much tailor made for you. You would love V, Anchoress, and Penda's Fen off it. From those I've only seen V, which I do love.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when it was announced. I was like, they made this set for me specifically. I will go ahead and pre-order it now. And then I think I'm actually so excited about it that it has kind of become intimidating, and I'm kind of putting it off because I've hyped it up so much, you know?
Have you watched the documentary?
Well, that's the thing. That's where I want to start, and that's 3 hours long. So it's like also kind of an intimidating thing. I'll get to it.
It flies by, and it will, if you just watch the documentary, it will get you pumped for the set. and you'll see all
Nice.
these titles that you'll get really excited to watch. It's really, really cool doc. Do you have Letterboxd by any chance? And Daniel, do you? I do. I believe it's just Daniel Cobwebs. And I know, Celeste, I know you do too, because I follow you on that.
Yeah. Letterboxd.com/inhumanecstasy.
Right on. Ben has to go. Great to meet you, Celeste. See you later, Daniel. Hey, see you,
Me
man.
too.
Thank you so much for dropping in. So Brendan supports you on the Tobawada set. All three were bangers.
I'm glad to hear that people actually like take action after watching my video, and it like people trust me enough to actually drop like $40 on a release. That feels like a lot of power that I have.
I do. Honestly, I feel like I've gotten more into Vinegar Syndrome since I started watching your stuff, because it kind of gave me direction on like what to buy, and because otherwise it just feels so much like blind buying. And I have had a lot more success with my blind buys since I started watching your videos and got a better sense of like what I might like.
Sounds like they got to cut me a check.
Seriously, they do. You're doing like academic work for them, for sure. I saw, what is the name of the guy who used to work for Vinegar Syndrome and now he does Terror Vision? I think you've interviewed
Brad
him
Henderson.
before. Yeah. I saw him talking on Twitter one time about how he gets asked for like screener copies or review copies, and he just doesn't do it. And he says, I don't think Blu-ray reviews do anything. And I was like, well, I don't think that's exactly true. I bought stuff because of reviews.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that feedback quite a bit where people are like, I bought this after I watched your video. And so I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how many that actually means, but you know, it's something.
It's something. Ken says, checked out that Low Life's Tubi movie off your recommendation. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. I was very biased on that movie because a friend of mine actually directed it. He was one of the two co-directors. But
nice.
Even as like watching a movie from a friend, like I was very impressed. I was like, oh, this is actually like a good movie. So yeah, that's on Tubi. It's a new horror movie. It's a Tubi original technically, but it's really good. The booklet moves the movie up 1 star. Absolutely.
It can. Not really. Like sometimes, especially if it's something I don't know anything about, like if all that great writing like can help me understand what I've just seen, like, yeah, I can, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. A lot. I've seen that movie. It's pretty good. Moon of the Wolf. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it too. Brandon has 7 VSAs and I haven't liked any of them, but I haven't seen that one. Yeah, they do release. I don't know. How would you describe the VSA line? Like cheaper stuff, cheesier stuff? I usually don't like the term cheesy, but I don't know if that's the right word for it.
It seems to be very action heavy.
It does.
Which is definitely not my thing. And so I don't know. I have thought about this before because the type of movies they release over there don't grab me in the way that all their other lines do. But then there are ones that I've seen that I really like Ted Bundy is one that I really like. Moon of the Wolf I really like. There must be others. I don't know. Sometimes I see them and I'm just like, that's very much not for me. And then sometimes I'm like, hey, that looks really good. So I don't know. I do think that because they are strictly limited, like they don't do standard editions of them, there might be an idea there was like, this is kind of the crappier stuff that people might not buy if we didn't strictly limit it, or like doesn't really have the fan base to do multiple pressings of. That's totally like conjecture on my part, and that might not be fair, but that's kind of how I've thought about it a little bit.
You know what is annoying about them though is how often the packaging gets kind of caught on the plastic there.
It's the worst. I don't know how they haven't fixed that yet. I complain about it every single time because it's almost impossible to put that thing back.
It's rough. Yeah, I think I bought 4 VSAs and I've kept half of them. So like I mentioned earlier, I did get rid of LA Wars and Martial Law. They were both action movies and just super low budget stuff. Yeah, I'm very gun shy with the VSAs for sure. We got Andy Gorham in the house. Hope you have a great night, my friend. I am. Thank you. I hope the same for you. Thank you for dropping in. The Crow is a legendary film. That's my go-to for anxiety reliever. I'm not so sure you are new to horror, Happy Optimist. Like you're into Blade, you're into Crow. It sounds like you're into horror movies.
Into the Molgoth movies.
The Molgoth. Oh, let's see. I still lean on them haul videos quite a bit. They're really fun to film, and I still like watching them. I really enjoy haul videos.
They're like easy to make. They're easy to watch, and people like them. Like there's a reason there's so many of them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Same feeling here. The fear of rejection from relatives sucks so bad. The thing is, like, relatives will reject your videos in terms of they won't watch them, but it's fine because they're not really the people you're making them for anyway. Yeah, I mean, not many.
Unless your brother shares your passion and then he makes fun of you for it, like that would be rough. But like, you know, my family has no idea what I'm talking about, and they generally don't watch it, and that's okay. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's family does stuff that the rest of the family doesn't participate in. It's not a big deal. Happy early B-Day, Celeste, from Ken.
Thank you.
Brendan says, I want to start a channel where I go over Dungeon Synth tape releases. Dungeon Synth tape? What? Okay, what is that? Is that music?
Yeah, Dungeon Synth is actually the music that is in all of my videos. There's an artist by the name of Vela Straws. She's a friend of mine, and I asked her if I could use her music for my videos. And she's a Dungeon Synth artist. It is essentially really nerdy, synthesizer-based, like Dungeons and Dragons music.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So like fantasy music, Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing, but like made on MIDI keyboards and stuff like that. Yeah. And he's talking about like cassette tapes, because that's pretty big, and like underground music, like vinyl tapes, that kind of thing is kind of how a lot of this stuff is shared and funded and that kind of thing. So I would watch that. I'm not super well versed in Dungeon Synth, to be honest. I was at a Dungeon Synth show recently because Veil of Straws was playing it, and I wanted to come out and support. But there's a band from Australia called Questmaster that headlined, and they were fucking awesome, actually. So I'm getting more into it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Brendan, it sounds like that's a niche where there are fans, and I don't know that there's a lot of Dungeon Synth tape releases channels. So I would say go for it. I mean, you might. It's cool if you can find something where you're like, oh, I want to make a video about this, and that video doesn't exist. Like no one else has made that video. If you can think of that, then I say make that video, because there's a good chance there are people that want to watch it. There's an audience for practically everything. I have 7 Walmarts within 20 minutes from my house, and every single one of them was $5 steelbooks. Missing me off, I paid full price. Those $5 steelbooks are, as far as I'm concerned, an urban legend. I haven't seen any of them.
I've been meaning to at least pop by a Walmart to just kind of take a look. It hasn't happened yet. There's not really a Walmart that is convenient to me. So it'd have to be like a trip. I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, my Walmart has a steelbook section, but they're all like $25, $30. And I don't really care that much about steelbooks. Are you a steelbook person?
Nah.
Yeah.
They're fragile. They take up a lot of room. They're generally more expensive. Unless there are a few, like everyone says it, but those Lionsgate ones were pretty sick. And there's a few of those that I did really want. But now I'm just kind of like, it was a whole hassle getting it through Best Buy, and they would always come damaged, and like, so there was just like a handful of ones that I really wanted, particularly the Wicker Man one. Like I made sure to get that thing pre-ordered and get a nice copy of it, and I was happy with it.
I regret that I didn't get that, because I have it on Blu-ray, and I was like, I'm probably fine, and then it sold out, and I immediately regretted my choices.
I imagine they'll do some kind of standard edition of it, but I do recommend it. Obviously, it's my favorite movie, but that 4K looks amazing. Like I've seen it so many times and in so many different versions that I felt confident that I would notice if there was a difference, and there is. It looks great.
Oh man, it's such a beautiful movie. I mean, I love The Wicker Man. I'm such a huge fan. Let's see. On the Tabuada video in particular, both you and Avery had really salient points in your reviews.
Thank you. Avery doesn't have time to do the reviews with me anymore, which is kind of a shame, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are the audits going to continue?
We have one shot, and it's being edited right now. So they are going to continue. It's just, she is so busy right now that even that is kind of a big ask for her right now. So we're behind, but we did the one for January. Just got to get it edited, you know.
Sure. Totally understandable, but I'm looking forward to those. Those are always fun. And I appreciate that you're carrying the torch for those after Ken left them behind, which I understand, because his comment section got crazy on those audit videos. I can understand him not wanting to deal with that anymore.
People were brutal. I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised at how nice my comments are, generally speaking. I don't know what it is I'm doing, but like, I do get some mean ones that I just delete because they're usually like bigoted instead of just being mean. But like, I'm just like, okay, goodbye. But like, I don't know. People are pretty chill about it over on my comments. I think I'm maybe vulnerable to a fault in those videos, and people respond to that a little bit. I don't know.
Sure, that makes sense. What is your friend's favorite Universal Classic Monster movie? My friend? Or maybe I'm your friend because I just mentioned Universal Monsters Classics. My favorite's The Wolfman. Do you have a favorite?
Dracula, for sure.
Oh yeah, that was my
Bela
favorite when I was a
Lugosi is
kid.
my boy. I should have worn it. Hold on. I'm going to get something real quick. I'll
Okay.
be right back.
All right, fair enough. Let's see. I thought The Wolf of Snow Hollow was a good little film. Yeah, as I was talking about this, I started thinking about The Wolf of Snow Hollow, which I like. I definitely wanted to like that movie more than I did. I'm not a big fan of the twist because, not to spoil anything, but there's a certain relationship in the movie that I really liked and found very charming, and they kind of threw it away with the twist, which was disappointing to me, but it is a pretty good movie. Oh, wait, no. I'm talking about the wrong movie. I was talking about Werewolves Within. I just got them mixed up, so some people might not understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, Celeste, what do you got?
It's not showing up super well, but we've got this Bela Lugosi pendant necklace, my patron saint.
That's so awesome. Okay,
I love him so much.
Bela Lugosi's got like a million random cheap movies. So, like, what is a good underrated Bela Lugosi movie a lot of people don't talk about?
Oh boy.
I'll just put you on.
Maybe
the spot.
this isn't a good answer, but have you seen The Devil Bat?
No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen that one.
Okay, it's not good per se, but he is kind of just being Dracula without saying it. And then there's a bat that's going around killing people, and it is literally just like a plush or like a very fake bat on like a string, and so it's like flying around like this. You know, it's so cheesy and so like obviously exploitative of his legacy, and also like so I don't know. It's so obviously like shoestring budget. I had a blast with it and I really liked it, but it's not good. So that's my kind of mixed answer to that question.
It's so weird how he never truly got a Dracula sequel, but he does basically play Dracula in a lot of movies. So is he the bat in this movie?
No, he's not. He's like a bat hunter.
I always think it's weird when I see like a 30s monster movie where it's literally just a bat. Like there's a movie called The Vampire Bat, and I went into that and I'm like, oh cool, a vampire movie. No, it is just a bat. It's not there's no vampire. Yeah, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, as I remember, it's not actually a werewolf movie, but yeah, I could definitely see the comparisons with this movie. Emo goth movies equals pure good shit. My Chemical Romance was my first introduction to music. You should be watching horror movies then, I would say.
Yeah. MCR loves horror movies. I think Gerard Way has a list of like his favorite movies with like a lot of horror movies on it. So maybe that's a good place to start.
Perfect. Yeah, look that.
You know what? Can I change my answer about the Bela Lugosi thing?
Yes.
Island of Lost Souls.
Oh,
it's so fucking good. Oh my god, he's so good in that.
That's why I like doing live streams right next to my shelf so I can grab things. Yes, Island of Lost Souls. Fantastic. Great movie.
He's nuts in that one. The makeup in that is crazy.
Screaming, "Are we not men?" So emotional. We got John Plaid X2. Hey, John, thank you so much for dropping in. The only Vinegar Syndrome title I have in my collection is from the Vinegar Syndrome Lad Line Flash and Fantasy. Yeah, I don't know if you were in here, but that was my first recommendation. Yeah, so great choice. That makes sense because I know you like the classic films. So that would be a good one for you. Really like a number of the films in that line. Right on. Diablock DVD is the Wicker Man big box set right now. They're labeled damaged as is. Ooh. Tempting. Hey, we got Jaden Christopher in here. Jaden, great supporter of the channel. I probably shouldn't be here because I want to keep my wallet safe. I just wanted to say hi. Also, I recommend Resurrection. It's a fun time and cheap on sale. I don't know, familiar with that. Do you know Resurrection?
I have that one. It's the 7 ripoff.
Okay.
So that was part of the 10 for 10 deal that they did a couple years back, and there were just so many titles that I wanted that, like, even at those prices, I couldn't afford to be dropping $100 a day. So what I did was, with some of the ones that I was on the fence about, I would just pull up, because a lot of them were on Tubi. So I would pull them up on Tubi and watch like 15 to 30 minutes of it to see if I was vibing with it. And that was one of them. And about 30 minutes in, I was like, this is cool. I like this. I'm gonna pick it up. And I never finished it, but I was into it for what I did see. So, but yeah, it's just like a ripoff of 7, kind of like a really grimy detective thriller, that kind of thing. You are muted right now.
I am muted. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and jump into your next recommendation.
Okay. This next one was sent to me by a subscriber / patron friend of mine. Anthony sent me this whole trilogy, but I wanted to highlight the first one. We talk about it in the audit video coming up, but that one's not up yet, so I haven't talked about it yet. But it's called Angel. I love this movie.
Oh yeah.
This is okay, I guess I'll just read the tagline because it sounds really bad when you say it out loud, and it's like, that's really gross. I don't think I want to watch that, but I am going to sell it to you in a second here. So the tagline is high school honor student by day, Hollywood hooker by night. That's a really trashy, terrible tagline, but this is a really, really actually like thoughtful and compassionate film about a young teenager who has to like turn to sex work to kind of get by because her parents have abandoned her, and she's like going to private school out of her own pocket at this point, and that's how she pays for it. I don't know, like a lot of films of this era, like the 80s and 90s, are notorious for like trans people and sex workers are just like the butt of the joke all the time, and it's just like, it's not great. But this one, it actually like it's marketed that way as like, but like there's really no like nudity in this or anything. It's actually a very tender portrait of like real people in difficult circumstances. And there is a trans woman character in this, and as soon as she showed up, I was like, okay, here we go. But she's actually really great. Like she is just like a well-rounded person. She's really funny. Like she has friends, and everybody like just is chill and like likes her, and like she has a great character arc and just is a great character in general. I don't know. It also just has really beautiful like period photography of like really grimy like urban late night Hollywood, like in the city. I loved this, like just straight up. So that's my next recommendation.
Right on. Yeah, the way you talked about it kind of sells me more than anything else I've heard about it, because it does sound very exploitative, and you know I'm certainly not against exploitation movies, but it sounds like the kind of thing I don't really want to see an exploitative version of, which I have actually from Vinegar Syndrome, because I got from Vinegar Syndrome a while ago Malibu High. Have you seen that?
That one's been recommended to me, but I've not seen it yet.
Well, I'm not recommending it right now. It is like the super trashy, sleazy, insane version of that, and it's not even like that she's the high school girl is doing it to like fund anything. Like she's doing it to get good grades on her classes and just like having sex with all of her teachers. And it keeps escalating. It almost becomes this crime thriller by the end. It's crazy. It's one that I actually ended up selling off because I wasn't a big fan of it. But that movie sounds better. That sounds very different.
Yeah, I hope I'm not overselling it, because I was going into it kind of like, oh, here we go. But by the end, I was like, wow, that was like really thoughtful and kind of like compassionate and tender. And I loved it. I don't know, like at the end of it, I was like, I'm kind of shocked that I'm saying this, but that just fucking ruled. Like, I like it a lot. So I don't know. Hopefully other people get something out of it in that way too. But maybe because I was expecting something else, it surprised me. Yeah, I don't know. I like all three of them actually, but that one is the best one.
That's that new version of the slipcover, right? That they did a year ago or so.
Something like that, yeah. I don't know, because there was a box set that went out of print. I don't remember if the movies were out of print entirely or if it was just that set. I think it was entirely out of print and they brought it back. The slipcovers are cool. They do like a continuation. If you put them all together, there's like a larger image that unfolds on the front and the back. It's neat, yeah.
Very cool.
All three of the films are good, but they get away from kind of the heart of the original the further they go on, but they continue to be entertaining and, I mean, pretty largely defensible. So,
right on. Cool. Okay, so my next recommendation this is the one where the slipcover is sold out and the standard edition is fairly low. So I would say if you're interested in it, go ahead and grab it. But it's probably the craziest movie on my list, and that is The Fear, which is a 90s horror movie. And the basic idea of it, and like I watched the making of on here and it's very interesting. The basic idea was someone was just asked to write a movie about a like wooden doll man who comes to life and kills people, which is a very simple idea. But the movie is anything but simple. Like it has so many different plots going on. It's insane. So it's about this like psychology student who is doing a study for his class. So he brings his girlfriend and all of his friends to like a cabin in the woods to basically like psychologically study them and do therapy on all of them, which is like a terrible idea to do with your girlfriend and your friends. Like you definitely should find people who you don't have personal relationships with to do that with. But they go out there and they also discover this Christmas theme park that's out there, like in the woods. And they go hang out at this Christmas theme park. It's not a Christmas movie. It's actually a spring break movie. But there's also all this lore involving an evil Santa that is involved with this wooden doll man who comes to life and kills people. And it's just one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. But it is so entertaining because like it's just constantly introducing new plot threads, new elements to the mythology, and I just can't believe how weird it is. So this is the standard edition that you would get if you bought it because the slipcover is sold out. And last thing I'll say about this movie is Wes Craven is an actor in it, which is honestly the reason that I bought it. I bought it for that reason, and then it sat on my shelf for years, and then I finally put it in, and I ended up really enjoying it. So have you seen The Fear?
No, I haven't. And that one I have seen on sale other places and have looked into it. So it's nice to get a recommendation on that. I'll have to check that out at some point. Another stray note here. I actually do think the Flesh for Fantasy slipcover is sold out as well.
Oh, okay. I'm actually kind of happy to hear that because I wasn't sure how well that was selling. So that's good to know.
I'm glad about it too. But in case anybody was looking forward to that.
It is a nice slipcover, but if you got it, you would get the original.
Yeah, the original theatrical is nice.
Yeah.
It should be reversible too, to have that.
It is, yeah. So you could have this. Yeah, there's this one release that I do you have Rush Week, or have you watched Rush Week?
I think the answer to both of those is no.
Okay, it's an 80s slasher, and I kind of wanted it, and I saw the slipcover was getting really low. So a while ago, I was thinking like, oh, do I just want to get it now and not wait for the sale just in case? And I thought, no, Daniel, that doesn't matter. It's fine. You should just wait for the sale. And if the slipcover sells out, you will live. It'll be okay.
I got to say, shout out to one of my subscribers. His name is Carlin. Carlin Cook. He has his own YouTube channel, actually. But he sent me, just out of the kindness of his heart, he sent me some Vinegar Syndrome stuff. And some of it didn't have slipcovers on it. And I got to say, like getting the free movies was nice, but that was the true gift, was finally breaking the continuity of my slipcovers so that I could just be free forever. I'm just like, you know what? We finally did it. We have standard editions in the collection, and it's okay. It didn't break my brain. It didn't like freak me out. Like, we're okay. They're on there. It looks fine. And now I'm free. I can have standard editions now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got lucky in that when I put in my first order to Vinegar Syndrome a couple years ago or something, I didn't know to care about the slipcovers, so I bought several that didn't have them. So I've always had some standard editions. So like it's not going to ruin anything. It's not like Vestron where like Vestron has to have slipcovers or I'll be upset.
Started as a subscriber, which is insane. But like I said, I started as a subscriber, which is insane. But like everything came with a slipcover, obviously, and so it wasn't even that. Like I have stuff in my collection where I honestly don't like the slipcover, but I bought it because I didn't want to break that continuity, which is insane. But we're better now. It's okay.
So you didn't order anything from Vinegar Syndrome until you became a subscriber?
I think I had one or two. I bought one thing from Orbit DVD. I bought the first Homegrown Horror set just because I love the artwork and I like the idea of it. It's still one of my favorite kind of things in my collection. And I watched those movies and I was like, these are great. I like this a lot. I like this whole idea. And then I think I might have rented a couple other titles too and really liked it. But just in general, like when I got aware of it and I kind of became interested was right before their halfway to Black Friday sale, 2022, I think. And so I saw that and I don't know, I keep saying that I'm a crazy person. I think I am, because I was just like, $550 for something I just became interested in. That seems reasonable. Why not? And then it was also the same weekend I went to Maryland Death Fest and Vinegar Syndrome had a booth there. And so I had just paid for the subscription and I was walking around the merch vendors and I saw them again. I was like, this is some kind of cursed fate. It's here again. And they had some stuff that had sold out because that was the day that Thriller went on sale and it sold out in like 2 hours and they had copies of it. So I picked one up. I bought New York Ninja too. I was irresponsible that weekend, to be completely honest with you. But I just went all in and I just got into it really fast. So
that's so interesting. Yeah, I think the first video I saw from you was you breaking down the subscription. Those videos are so great because I think you've done 2 or
Thank
3
you.
at this point of those.
2, yeah.
2? Okay, yeah. Yeah, because everybody knows about the Vinegar Syndrome subscription and stuff, but like nobody really talks about it to that detail of like what you're actually going to get, what it's actually going to cost you, especially if you resell stuff, if you put in more orders with partner label stuff.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic. I love those videos.
Thank
Even
you.
though I'm not a subscriber, and I don't think I will be a subscriber anytime soon, I still found the whole subject very interesting.
Yeah, my one rule for it was that, we keep saying like, yeah, I bought it, but I haven't watched it. When I decided to be a subscriber, my one rule to myself was you have to watch everything. You cannot spend $500 on something and then not touch it. And that's kind of how the reviews were born, because I needed that extra incentive to watch everything. And then I also was like, I don't know, these are expensive, very obscure movies. I kind of feel like I'm in a position to like guide people through this stuff if I actually take the time to watch it. So that's kind of the inception of the whole project.
There are a few things in the chat I have to address. So Happy Optimist says Rob Zombie's underrated. You are a horror fan. Like,
I was gonna say that's actually another good point of entry, I think, especially if you're into the mall goth shit. Rob Zombie like makes movies for those people.
I really like Rob Zombie, so I agree that Rob Zombie's underrated. Like, I love Lords of Salem. I like both his Halloween movies, but especially Halloween 2, Devil's Rejects, House of 1,000 Corpses. I actually like The Munsters. I'm one of those rare people. So, yeah, but it sounds like you are a horror fan. So I don't know that I believe this stuff about you not watching horror movies. Let's see. Wayne says, I've seen all the Angel movies. There are 3 of them.
There are actually 4.
Fear.
They didn't put out the 4th one, but there are 4.
Oh, interesting. Do you know why they didn't do it?
Must be a different distributor or something. I've not seen it yet. It might be just an entirely different thing, and it's a sequel in name only,
Should be.
Yeah, that one's actually kind of hard to find, so I'm going to have to track that down.
Brendan is curious if you're getting a copy of The Sweetest Taboo.
So that is the book that my friend from Unsung Horrors, Erica Schultz, wrote. It is an unapologetic guide to child kills in cinema. I would love to have a copy, but I'm not spending any money right now on like anything other than essentials, just because I don't have a job right now. But yeah, I would really love to buy a copy of that just to support her. But yeah, unfortunately not at the moment. hopefully when things change, I can get a copy of that.
Have you ever been on Unsung Horrors?
I was on I was not on one of the proper episodes, but she did a Blu-ray wish list episode, and I was on 2 of those. Yeah,
I need to check those out. I was on one. I did we talked about the Hammer movie, Never Take Sweets from a Stranger.
Oh nice, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's really good. It's probably my favorite of the Hammer thrillers. Very intense. Yeah, I love Unsung Horrors. Erica and Lance, they're great people. See, Jaden says, I got this one. Probably The Fear. I think that's where I'm at in here. I got this one for $3 plus shipping for the first 10 for 10 sale. Oh, awesome.
That's crazy.
That is.
I wish I would have caught that, because I have free shipping with them, so I would have gotten it for $3, which would have been nuts.
I wasn't paying attention to them during the 10 for 10 thing. So did you have to get 10 each day?
They had 10 titles per day for 7 days that were $10 a piece.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like
they were
you had
including
to get
special
10
editions
to get them
and
for
stuff too. It was crazy. It was like Christmas every day.
It seems like their subscriber week sales are constantly getting a little more expensive, I guess, like everything else these days. But because like my first subscriber week sale, most everything was $12, and then this last one, most everything was like $14, I think.
Yeah. So that was their first subscriber week and their 10th anniversary. So those 2 things kind of coincided for this like insane deal, and they were very clear when it happened, like, we're never doing this again, but we're going to do this for this special occasion.
Got it.
But I think it was so successful that they are kind of doing a version of it for subscriber week, just not at those prices,
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Winter Beast on Homegrown Horrors 1 is so good. That's a great title. Yeah, I've been interested in those Homegrown Horrors box sets, but I haven't gotten any yet. I think they're releasing another one this year, right?
Yeah, it's going to be at the halfway. It's going to be one of the new titles.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so I think it's my turn, right?
I think it's my turn, because I did Angel and then you did The Fear.
The Fear. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Okay, what's your next rec?
We're going to do Killer Condom. Killer Condom rules. This is a queer neo-noir detective horror comedy thriller with creature effects by holy shit, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. The guy H.R. Giger, the guy who did Alien, and is did the artwork for Danzig and is very iconic. He did the creature effects for this. I was expecting a goofy, fun horror comedy, which it is, but I was not expecting how thoughtful a social commentary this is as well. It is extremely gay and it is very political about that. It's maybe a little bit long for what it is, but it's just so good and I love it so much. And there's so many great supplements on it. And I watched this with friends, and one of my friends actually has this in his top 4 on Letterboxd now. I guess he really liked it. So yeah, I think a lot of people were like, that's not a real movie. Come on, let's be serious. And so I've kind of been trying to tell people that it is actually really well made and really good.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of movie that I would never pay any attention to, but I remember your review on the video where you covered it, and I thought the review was so interesting, and I was like, this movie actually sounds really good, so I am kind of interested in it now. I was talking to a friend recently who is a subscriber and was like, oh yeah, the last few months have been rough, this killer condom thing, blah blah, and I was like, no, you got to listen to Celeste de la Cabra because I've heard that movie's really good.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Is that movie the 90s?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's early 90s. It's also set in New York, but it's German and they're speaking German. It is so all over the place.
Oh, that's right. Which makes sense because if Killer Condom was an American movie, it would probably just be an adult film. But over in Europe, you can imagine that actually being a real movie. Okay, so my next recommendation, I believe this is one you're a fan of, if I'm remembering correctly. This is one of the most recent Vinegar Syndromes that I've checked out, and it's The Iceman Cometh.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
I've just recently started getting into Hong Kong movies more, and I've kind of been using Vinegar Syndrome as my way into them. Also checking out a few on the Criterion channel, like we were mentioning earlier. But yeah, I picked this up because it went in the last subscriber sale, and I kind of told myself anything Hong Kong that goes in the subscriber sale, I'll just buy. And I just recently checked it out. Man, I really enjoyed it. The way I described this in my Letterboxd review is it's basically Kate and Leopold with a lot of action. So if you remember Kate and Leopold, where Hugh Jackman is this old-timey gentleman who comes from the past and worldly woman Meg Ryan falls in love with him. That's basically what Iceman Cometh is. Yeah. But it's these two guys. I think it's from the Ming Dynasty. I'm not great on China history.
Something like that. I couldn't tell you.
I think that's what it is. From a very, very long time ago. They get frozen in the ice when they're doing battle, and they're brothers. They're brothers on opposite sides of a war or something like that. They get frozen in the ice, and then they get thawed out in 1980s Hong Kong. And now the bad guy is running around doing crime and being a bad guy. And then the good guy is trying to find him, but he ends up, becoming friends with this worldly woman, this sex worker, and she starts very much using him and his ignorance about the world, but he kind of catches on at some point and leaves and goes off to find the bad guy. But it ends up being this sweet romance between the two, and the action is awesome, especially the sword fights. It's got a lot of sword fights. Sword fights is one of my favorite things to be in a movie. So I love that. It was one of those Hong Kong movies where for the most part, the comedy did work for me. So I enjoyed the comedy and the romance, but then the action is all really, really cool too. So I had a great time with it.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way in that I had never, not that I was opposed to it or anything. It just had never been in my purview to watch a lot of Hong Kong stuff until I started getting some of the stuff in from Vinegar Syndrome. And now that's kind of been my gateway into it as well. Actually, my next one is a Hong Kong title too. So that's cool.
Nice. Perfect.
But I love that one. Yeah, it's great. It starts out as this super high fantasy wuxia film, and then it just turns into screwball comedy, which people I don't think people were expecting that. I certainly wasn't. I don't know. There's something about the Hong Kong films where they just have they have no respect for genre conventions whatsoever. They're just we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and it'll all work. It does.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying that kind of discovery. It's another I think it's another one I watched on the Criterion Channel was Mr. Vampire. So it's a Hong Kong vampire movie, probably their most famous one, I think. But I was just marveling at how nothing about I didn't recognize anything about vampires in that movie because it's all Chinese legends, and it's totally different from the European vampire legends. So like all their weaknesses, everything they do, it's all completely different. So I've just been having a lot of fun with that kind of thing with Hong Kong movies. Just kind of they go in completely different directions than I'm expecting, and so far I really, really enjoy them.
Nice. I'll need to check that one out. Yeah, so mine, this is gonna feel like a little bit of a flex. I don't mean it to be, but this is the this is Biozombie, and it has the subscriber exclusive slipcase on it that they just kind of did at the last second. Honestly, I don't really like it. I think I'm gonna sell it soon because I'm kind of hard for money at the moment. But
it's very busy.
Yeah, it is. But then there's a slipcover on it, just like the regular one. Yeah, I do have a review for this on the channel. I love this movie. It is Dawn of the Dead in Hong Kong is what it is, essentially. Super bloody, super funny, but also like it's like a buddy comedy as well. And like their relationship is actually very sweet and very tender. And it gets emotional at certain points for sure. But it's very much just like these two slackers like hanging out in a mall, causing trouble and being degenerates, etc. And then this kind of like zombie outbreak occurs, and it's just fucking nuts. It just goes off the wall. It's very explicitly inspired by Dawn of the Dead. It's the right one, right? The one in the mall, the second one.
Dawn of the Dead,
I got them all confused in my mind for a second. It's very much that, but they kind of go harder with it, and it's more wild. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good starter point if you're not familiar with the Hong Kong stuff, because it has such an explicitly American reference. But another thing that's interesting about it is that like Hong Kong malls are kind of different because everything is so compact, and so it's more of a tighter space that they're confined to. It's not like this like super sprawling like open platform or whatever, where like American malls are just like these capitalist monstrosities or whatever. It's more like the tension is kind of ramped up because you're kind of like in these tiny stores and tiny restaurants and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I am very interested in that one, and I'm glad you reminded me about it. And I just looked it up on the website, and I don't know, I felt like this movie made a splash when it came out, so I kind of expected the slipcover to be sold out, but it is not. It's over 1,000 left in stock. So with the sale price, it'll be about $21. I might get that one because I do like zombie movies. I love Dawn of the Dead. So just a Hong Kong Dawn of the Dead with, I'm guessing, a lot more gore.
Yeah, it's pretty out there.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
There's also a commentary on it from Frank Zhang, who is maybe the best in the business when it comes to commentaries. His are just absolutely incredible, and his on this one is so good.
Okay. And it's got a booklet.
That for sure.
I've noticed.
No, it does not have a booklet, but it has the commentary.
It says it does on the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it says 20-page booklet.
Maybe it does. Oh, you know what? It's not a...
Yeah, right. I have noticed the Hong Kong stuff, for whatever reason, seems to always have a booklet inside. It just seems to be a thing that they're doing with the Hong Kong. All the ones that I have, at least, they've all got booklets, which has been interesting. So yeah, I'm going to add BioLife. Not BioLife? BioZombie. BioLife is the Pauly Shore movie, right? No, that's Biodome.
Biodome is what I thought of.
It's a lot of bio movies. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely adding that one to my list. Okay, so this next one is a certified Celeste de la Cabra recommendation. I bought this specifically because you talked about it and I loved it, and it is Blood Delirium. So this, I just have to preface for everybody, this is an extremely sick and twisted movie. I'm a little less adventurous than you, so like I don't watch the really sick stuff a lot. So this was pretty far for me. But what I thought was interesting about it was it's like this really sick and twisted movie, but it's also like really beautifully well made. It's not like some, underground thing people are making in their garage or something. Like it's got a beautiful score, a beautiful location, the cinematography, and it's starring, I don't remember the guy's name, but I've seen him in like British movies because he's not an Italian actor. John Philip Law. Yeah, I've seen him as Sinbad in one of the Ray Harryhausen movies, but I liked all the actors, and it's mainly just such a sick movie because of the main guy's manservant, basically,
Mm-hmm.
he's an American actor, and he's been in like a lot of westerns in the 50s. I'm trying to remember his name. Gordon Mitchell. Yeah, like he was in Rio Bravo. But it does like every horrible, sick thing you can imagine. Like he basically does in this movie. But it starts out like kind of like a Vertigo kind of thing. This guy loses his wife, and then he sees this other woman who looks like her and tries to form her into that image. But then the movie kind of switches halfway through, and it becomes more about blood and him using blood in his art and needing to get more blood, which is really interesting. But yeah, I really, really loved this movie. So I was really, really happy you recommended it and put it on my radar.
Yeah, for sure. That one is like, watching the special features, they were talking about how the director wanted to be like the next Fellini, or like this like super respected art house kind of guy. And I was like, I see that. I really do. Like, your movie is beautiful, and it is like artistically crafted, and like it does have that kind of like ornate Italian tradition to it. But you know the movie you made. This shit is fucked up. Like, come on. Like, it's so bad. Like, he like saws women in half from like the vagina up. Like, there's like stuff in there that I couldn't
like Art the
believe
Clown
was
stuff
in there.
on,
Yeah. Like, it's fucked up. And I really like it.
And then like at one point, like kind of late in the movie, for no reason, he's just like cooking human flesh and eating it, and like cannibalism has never been a part of this movie, and just like, here it is, now we're moving on to cannibalism. I also sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, I watched one of the interviews was with the lead actress, and one thing I thought was interesting about her is she was talking about how the nicest person on the set was Gordon Mitchell, who plays the horrific manservant, and she said he was like her dad while filming the movie. I thought that was so fascinating. All the things he does in this movie, but he's just like this sweetheart who was looking out for her, I guess.
Yeah, I think Vertigo is a perfect reference for like the classier elements of it, and then like Color Me Blood Red from Herschel Gordon Lewis. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
I haven't actually seen any Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Okay, it's literally the same premise where this guy uses blood in his paintings, and then he has to continue to procure it in more and more degenerate sort of ways. So it's kind of like the intersection of those two things, both plot wise and like aesthetically, you know. Yeah, it just goes so hard. Like, it's really kind of unbelievable. So
yeah. So just so everybody knows, like, at your own risk, but I do think it's a really good movie. And this one was also in the subscriber week sale, so it could be in like their subscriber week that I think they will do in June this year. Yeah, that's one thing.
Unsung Horrors has a really good episode on it too.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. I gotta look that up. Yeah, that's an interesting thing about their Black Friday sales, is like they're good sales, that and the halfway to Black Friday, but then they do subscriber week literally the next month, and it's a way better sale. You just don't know what's going to be included, so it's kind of a gamble to wait for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, what's your next pick?
Right.
Your final
last
pick?
Last one is Sex World. I wanted to get at least one porn title in here, because I actually really like the porn stuff. Like, not just for reasons that one might expect, because I think that there's better ways to go about that these days, but in terms of like snapshots in time of like a thing that literally doesn't exist anymore, like genuine films made by real filmmakers, like as real films that also just have like hardcore sex scenes in it so that they can sell it. Like, hardcore stuff, pornography is actually a way that a lot of people like got into filmmaking, because it was an easy way to like make money, guaranteed, if you just put this stuff in it.
Yeah, that's what Wes Craven got his start that way.
And so as long as you have that stuff in it, you could kind of do whatever you wanted with the rest of it. And so a lot of these filmmakers would explore their own ideas like in this context. And you also get a lot of like women directors and stuff like that, because as long as you can shoot a sex scene, they don't really care who you are, you know? So you could kind of get your feet wet in there. I like to recommend this one. This is typically my go-to one, because this 4K is beautiful. It looks great. It is also the first pornographic film on 4K UHD. So just for the novelty of that, I think that's fun.
I remember they were really hyping that up at the time.
Also, so the premise of this is it's just Westworld. It's a Westworld parody, but it's specifically about like sexual fantasies. And that is touched upon in like the Westworld series. Like you kind of get these like kind of vanilla straight dudes being like, "Ooh, I can sleep with someone other than my wife." You know, that's their idea of like really going crazy, like sexually or whatever. You know, but like in this one, they entirely focus on that, and so you get a lot of interesting ideas explored in it. Like you get people exploring like their queer desires and stuff like that. You get like this one it's kind of questionable, but it's also kind of interesting, like this really racist guy who like wants to have like explore like having sex with a black woman. Like it's the sort of thing that you can only explore if you actually show the sex scenes. You know, you can't actually explore the real minutia of like somebody exploring their sexuality if you don't show them actually having that sex. And so I think that it's a film that kind of justifies its place in the genre with its conceit while also being an interesting conceit in and of itself. And I think it's a great movie, honestly. So yeah, I think that that's probably the best entryway, to use a fun word there, into this sort of genre. If you feel brave enough to peruse the Melusine website, that's my recommendation for where to start.
So that's now only on that their other website. It's not on the main site anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But everything there will be on sale. It's included in the sale stuff.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah, a friend of mine got that. I think like as like a meme or something, because he was just curious, like the first 4K porn. And I don't think he finished it. I think his only comment on it was lots of hairy 1970s dudes. But you sold it very, very well. I don't think I am brave enough because I'm pretty square, but you sold it very well and made it sound like much more intellectually interesting than I think most people would give it credit for.
Well, thank you. I actually did buy it for the novelty of it as well. I was like, I kind of want to have the first 4K UHD hardcore film. And then I watched it with both my partners and we were into it. So I was like, actually, you know what? That was pretty good. I think I might explore this stuff further. And during their last Valentine's Day sale, they had like, because all the Vinegar Syndrome branded hardcore titles are going out of print because they're completely rebranding it. I don't know how many of those will get repressed, but they did like a crazy warehouse sale for that stuff. So I bought a lot of it and I've been kind of going through it. And you know, the quality varies as it does with anything else, but generally speaking, I don't know, I just really like watching anything shot on 35 from like the 70s and stuff. Like it's just an aesthetic that is inherently kind of beautiful to me. And yeah, I've been enjoying going through that. So that's my recommendation. Corruption is another really good one, though that might be out of print at this point. So I don't want to make that my pick, but yeah.
How's it look on 4K?
It looks pretty great.
Right on.
It looks pretty great.
Shot on film.
I believe it's
better than a lot of modern
camera negative
stuff.
Restoration. So.
Oh, wow. Very cool. All right, folks, those are our recommendations. I'm just going to go through the chat real quick, make sure we acknowledge everybody. That was you on the Never Take Sweets from Stranger episode. Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. It convinced you to pick it up. Yep, that was me. That was a good time. I have actually not seen The Walking Dead from 1936. I know it sounds like a zombie movie for obvious reasons now. I think I've heard it's technically not a zombie movie. Have you seen that one?
I don't think I've heard of it.
See, I remember reading about Killer Condom in Fangoria magazine back in the 90s, but I've still never seen it. Wow, they covered it in Fangoria. That's pretty cool.
Trauma distributed it here in the States, and they kind of sold it as like a really trashy, like goofy movie. Which I mean, it is, but it's also other things, you know.
Sure, I'm sure that was probably the best way for them to sell a movie called Killer Condom. Makes sense. Let's see. Friday is Alien Day, 45 years since the original Alien was released, and Alien Romulus will be out August 16th. I'm very excited for that. Honestly, I know this probably sounds bad, but I am glad they've taken Alien, or he's given it up, away from Ridley Scott, because I was not a big fan of the Prometheus and Alien Covenant kind of stuff. I'm kind of happy they're going back to a simple horror movie for it. How are you feeling about that, Celeste? Are you excited for that movie?
Alien 4 Resurrection, I think, is the last one I've seen. Is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So I think I took a break at that point, and I haven't seen any of the contemporary stuff. But the original Alien is one of my favorite films. I'm happy to know that I share a birthday with Alien. I think that's fun. I didn't know that before, so that's cool.
Oh, that's true.
But yeah, I gotta get caught up, and then I'm hearing good things about this new one, or at least people are excited about it. So
yeah, I love the
I'd
director.
like to check it out.
I love
Who's
Fede
directing
Alvarez. Fede Alvarez, so he did the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe.
Oh, the Evil Dead remake is really good.
I love it. When I saw that in theaters back in 2013, that was by far the goriest thing I had seen at that point. So it was like, it was so much fun. It just really was such an adrenaline ride of a movie that I was not prepared for.
I think it's better than Evil Dead Rise, but
oh yeah, I'm actually not a big fan of Evil Dead Rise. I've only seen it the one time in theaters, and
it's okay.
I thought it was boring, which I would never have expected to say.
I thought it was tame. I thought it thinks it goes a lot harder than it does.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
And it had so many like winks and nods to the other movies where Evil Dead 2013 didn't do that. You know, it really did do its own thing. And then Evil Dead Rise was, I don't know, kind of trying to have it both ways, trying to be hardcore, but also be kind of a winky thing to the old movies. And it didn't really work for me. And I was just like I love Jane Levy as the final girl in Evil Dead 2013. I was not really into the characters in Evil Dead Rise, unfortunately. Let's see. Rome Loves Dan bought Flesh and Fantasy and Vinegar Syndrome based on your recommendation. Cool. I'm so happy to hear that. All That Is Man says Sex World is very good. Cool. I've been kind of buddies with All That Is Man on Twitter for a very long time. So thank you so much for dropping in.
Shout out All That Is Kino.
Oh, that's right. He does that, doesn't he? Yep.
He has gotten shout outs from Kino. He buys so much from them.
Has he really?
Yeah, they tweeted out a meme because he tweeted something like, "Rip me, this new Kino sale," or whatever. And they tweeted out a picture of a headstone and it said, "All That Is Man. He bought too many Kinos." Really funny.
We're shutting down. Like, he bought us out.
Of them every sale. It's insane.
Wow.
I need to get into his line of work.
No kidding. That is incredible. Well done. Sounds much like the Sex Files. Not familiar with that. I'm sure that means Sex World.
But I'm sure that's fun.
Here's a question for you. What is the better of the homegrown horror sets?
I think the first one is better. But it's close. I like the second one a lot.
It sounds like the answer is both.
Yeah. But you might as well start at the beginning, and I do think it's a little bit better. So I'll go with the first one.
Right on. All right, Celeste. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've taken up over 2 hours of your time, so thank you very, very much.
Not at all. Flew by. I had a great time.
Yeah, very good to finally meet you, talk about some crazy movies. And why don't you just tell the folks one more time what you're doing and where they can find you, and if you have any scoops for upcoming videos, let me know. Okay.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I think this was a really cool thing. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate your time as well, and you granting me a space on your platform. I do really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And all your kind words throughout, and on my videos and stuff. I do really appreciate it. As I say, if you are interested in in-depth discussions on cult and art house films, come check me out. Celeste La Cabra on YouTube and Instagram. Letterboxd.com/inhumanecstasy if you want to see what I've been watching. You can maybe try to guess what videos are coming out through that. And in terms of a scoop, I have an interview that I've just done that is very, very exciting, that is fucking sick, and is 3 hours long. So I'm not going to say who it is, but it's pretty good, and I'm very excited about it. I'm hoping to have that up. It'll probably be early next week. It's just editing intensive with how long it ended up being. So, yeah.
Can I ask, is it someone in filmmaking or someone in the physical media world?
Someone in the physical media world.
Okay, cool. Very excited.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody.
Joe Rogan interview. Just yelling at him the whole time. There's no way.
I'm sure he has lots to say about physical media.
Oh,
very interesting points, no doubt. We got a nice hello from David Jones. Hello. Thank you so much for dropping by.
I could convince Joe Rogan to buy Blu-rays. He just believes whatever the last thing he's heard is. So I could do it, I think.
I heard the government's trying to stop us from buying Blu-rays.
Oh yeah.
Or stock up before they legalize.
Hey Jamie,
right?
can you pull that up?
All right, everybody.
There's other issues I'd prefer to convince him or talk him out of first, but I think I can do it.
One step at a time. First physical media,
Yeah.
then the world. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to us talk about movies, talk about Vinegar Syndrome. Really, really appreciate y'all. And DJ Depression says you guys should team up for more videos. Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was a great time, and I really enjoy your content. So this was a good time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream and have a good night.
See ya.